Hello, everyone. Omni-sensei here with What If I Was Sukuna's Reincarnation in DC Verse, Part 4. If you enjoy this content, please smash the like button. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to check out the original story linked in the description. I hope you enjoy listening to it.
Think of it like this, Jason began, his voice a low rumble that cut through the training ground's silence. He stood before Raven, Livewire, and a fidgeting Harley. When you go into meditation, what do you usually focus on? Raven, her posture serene, answered softly, I usually think about home. I retreat to a peaceful place in my mind. Jason nodded, a flicker of approval in his eyes. And that's half of what a domain is. It's your inner world. Your mind, your soul, whatever you want to call it. But instead of letting it simmer unseen, you impose it upon reality itself. He let the weight of the statement hang in the air before continuing. Understand this, you don't start by building a cathedral. You start with a single, sturdy wall. That's a simple domain. It's a barrier. If a domain is imposing yourself upon the world, then a simple domain is merely suggesting your presence. It takes less effort and less focus, and it protects you from the sure-hit effects of a true domain. A lecture? Seriously? Livewire quipped, a spark of electricity dancing on her shoulder. Can't we just skip to the cool, explodey part? Jason's gaze was unamused. I can't demonstrate the defense, as none of you can yet create a domain to test it against. However, his eyes scanned the trio before landing on the most enthusiastic. I can demonstrate the offense. Harley. You're up. Yay. I'm the test dummy. Harley chirped, bouncing forward without a hint of fear. I'm not sure you're supposed to be happy about that, Livewire deadpanned. Ignoring them, Jason stepped back, his hands coming together in a series of intricate, deliberate signs. The air grew heavy, charged with palpable energy. He spoke two words, calm and absolute. Domain expansion, malevolent shrine. The world warped. In an instant, the training ground vanished, replaced by an endless, placid body of water upon which they stood. Behind Jason, a beautiful, ominous Shinto shrine stood bathed in a bloody crimson light. The sheer pressure of the domain was suffocating, a tangible weight of fear and power. Harley found herself isolated, a tiny figure stranded far across the water. The playful grin on her face faltered, replaced by a primal shiver of terror. From the relative safety of the shrine steps, Livewire managed a shaky, mocking tone. Is all that flashy naming and the hand jutsu really necessary? To her shock, Jason's voice answered, calm and omnipresent. Yes. The hand signs and the name are anchors for the mind. They are the ultimate focus. Failure in this technique means absolute death. It is the pinnacle. You need absolute focus, understanding, and power to wield it. Fail, and you create a hollow domain. A black void that will consume your mind and snuff your life in an instant. Livewire fell silent, the last of her sarcasm extinguished by the chilling explanation. Well. Let's see it. The domain power. Harley's shout echoed across the water, a brave front against the overwhelming atmosphere. A single, sharp snap echoed, though Jason's fingers hadn't moved. In that instant, Harley's top was cleanly sliced to ribbons, falling away to leave her completely topless. Raven and Livewire stared, stunned. Harley looked down at her bare breasts, a blush creeping up her neck, but her trademark grin quickly returned. Mr. J. Making a girl blush. I said you could take me anywhere, anytime, but mind the observers. She winked at the other girls. Though I don't mind if they watch. Jason sighed, the sound echoing through the domain. He turned to Raven and Livewire. As you can see, I managed to cut her clothes from here without moving. Raven, ever the analytical one, frowned. I understand that, but isn't that the same as what you can do outside? Yes and no, Jason replied. In here, there is no dodging. A domain expansion has a sure hit effect. It will strike its target. A simple domain can ignore that, for a time. But it will eventually crumble under the sheer dominance of a true domain. And that's not its only function. While it constantly bleeds your cursed energy, inside, it is as if you have unlimited power. Seeing Raven's lingering confusion, he elaborated. Imagine your mana is a tank of 100 units. Maintaining the domain costs 1 unit per minute. But inside, all your other spells cost 0. Unlimited power, for a limited time. It can also expand and strengthen your innate abilities. With a thought, the domain collapsed, the eerie water and shrine vanishing to return them to the training ground. Harley was suddenly standing right beside them again, still topless and now shivering slightly. Now, Jason's voice was stern. Let me warn and advise you. Seeing my domain does not mean yours will be the same. Each is unique. Mine is a domain of pure combat, but there are conceptual domains where the rule isn't physical destruction, but a law, a condition, or a logic. Without naming names, I've known domains that force a target to gamble their soul, another that requires them to defend themselves in a court of law, one with a single coffin that seals you away, another of endless lava. Your domain is a reflection of your personality, imagination, and the depth of your cursed energy and focus. The girls looked intrigued, each one's eyes glazing over as internal visions of their own potential domains began to take shape. Raven met his gaze, her voice barely a whisper. When you are about to impose something on the world, what do you think? What do you impose, Jason? A slow, confident smile spread across Jason's face. Ah. An excellent question, Raven. For me. He said, his tone dropping to a regal, resonant timbre, I simply ask the universe to remember who its king is. Livewire and Raven nodded, the profound statement settling over them. They closed their eyes and sank into deep meditation, seeking their own truths. Harley, however, just stood there, grinning and making no move to cover herself. Jason's patience finally snapped. He moved with blurring speed, his open palm coming up in a sharp, stinging slap that connected squarely with her exposed chest. The impact was loud in the quiet room, causing her pale flesh to jiggle and her nipples to instantly harden into tight peaks from the sudden, shocking sensation. Hide your damn tiny tits and join them, you dumbass, he growled, his voice laced with exasperated fondness. Harley let out a theatrical, joyful cry. Ah, Mr. Jason. Slapping my tits like that, you're making me horny, but she knew her limits and was already moving, a genuine, pleased smile on her face as she quickly found a spot beside the others, closed her eyes, and began to meditate, the tingling sensation on her skin seemingly helping her focus. Jason observed the three of them, his senses reading the vast oceans of cursed energy each was attempting to harness. But one still shocked him. Raven's energy wasn't a river or a sea, it was a colossal lake, vast and deep, being violently compressed into a single, unimaginably dense tank, waiting for the slightest crack to explode outwards. To think she accidentally absorbed and condensed all the latent cursed energy of the people of Azarath. He thought, a rare flicker of awe in his mind. Her reserves, they truly rival even mine. With a final, contemplative glance, he left them to their training. The engine hum was the only sound in the night as Jason drove through the empty city streets. Neon reflections slid across the black hood of his car, but his mind was far from the lights. Something felt off. A faint prickling sensation crawled up his neck, the unmistakable feeling of eyes in the dark. Looks like someone's following me, he murmured, the corner of his lips twitching into a grin. Interesting. Doesn't happen often. Let's see who it is. He took a sudden left turn, then another, weaving through narrow streets until the skyline gave way to silence, an unfinished construction site on the city's edge. Concrete skeletons stood tall under the moonlight. Jason parked, stepped out, and cracked his neck. Minutes passed. Only the whisper of the wind filled the void. Then, calmly, he spoke into the emptiness. You do realize I know you're there. A flicker. Then, wish. Jason tilted his head as a sharp metallic object sliced through the air where his eye had been a moment earlier. It struck a pillar and spun to a stop, still humming with kinetic energy. He looked down. A bat-shaped boomerang. "Oh, it's you." From the shadows emerged a silhouette clad in armor, the cape flowing like smoke, the eyes glowing faintly white beneath the cowl. "I don't have much time, Bruce," Jason said, voice low but calm. "What do you want?" Batman didn't answer. Instead, he raised something that looked far from his usual gadgets, a compact railgun, humming with magnetic charge. The thunder cracked before Jason could move. A beam of pure kinetic force tore through the space he had just vacated. Concrete shattered like glass, sparks raining around him. "I want you dead." Jason straightened up, the faintest annoyance crossing his face. "Are you crazy?" Batman didn't respond. He fired again. Jason lunged forward, fingers glowing with faint red lines. "Cleave." The railgun's muzzle split clean in half before it could fire again, the weapon sparking and dying in his hands. "You don't talk anymore, huh?" Jason said as he stepped forward, his eyes sharp and wild. "And here I thought you were always good with words. Shame that version's gone quiet." Batman threw a smoke bomb and vanished. Jason exhaled, scanning. He heard the hum, small drones circling him, each emitting bright pulses. Flash grenades. They detonated in unison, blinding light and noise flooding the area. Batman dropped from above, slamming a reinforced shock glove into Jason's ribs. The impact was enough to crater concrete, and Jason felt that one. He grinned. "Heh, nice punch." Batman didn't linger. Grapple hook, flashbang, taser net, every move a chain of precise, pre-planned tactics. Jason dodged, weaved, and countered, each cleave slicing steel, air, or debris. Batman was fast, but calculated, controlled. Every trap was meant to restrict movement. Every explosive designed to disrupt focus. Every strike was silent intent, kill efficiently. But Jason was faster. With one hand, he crushed a bat drone mid-flight. Another swing shattered Batman's grapnel gun. The moment Bruce tried to retreat to high ground, Jason's dismantle cut through the pillar he perched on, forcing him to roll across the rubble. "You came prepared," Jason said, brushing off dust. "I'll give you that. You even figured out I can cut from a distance." "Oh wait, I show that often, don't I?" "You're wasting your time, Bruce. I'm not your enemy." Batman stayed silent, switching tactics. He threw a black capsule that released magnetic dust, followed by a compact EMP grenade. Jason's cursed energy flickered slightly. "Oh? A blackout trick? You're learning." Jason flexed his fingers. The cuts around him dimmed, but didn't stop. "Thing is, I don't need energy to rip things apart. Instinct is enough." A wave of force tore through the ground, sending shards of rebar and rock flying. Batman used the distraction to close the distance, plunging a high-frequency blade toward Jason's neck, only for Jason to stop it with 2 fingers. The blade split cleanly in half. Jason sighed. "You don't listen. You never listen." Then the air changed. The wind stilled. The silence deepened. Jason brought his hands together, the red sigils flared. "Domain expansion." His voice echoed across the site. "Malevolent shrine." The world folded. Reality twisted. Batman found himself standing on endless water beneath a red sky, the great shrine towering in the distance, and Jason, floating before it, eyes glowing with a calm, divine menace. Within the next second, hundreds of invisible slashes carved through the air. Batman's armor shredded piece by piece. His cape was gone, his mask cracked, blood painting the water beneath him. Jason appeared beside him in a blink. He loomed over him, shadow swallowing the broken armor. Jason's voice dropped slow and cold, each syllable a hammer. "Let me get this straight into your head," he said. "I can, not just kill you, but rip you into pieces. So small no one would be able to recognize you as a body part. You'd be nothing but dust. Understand that, Bruce? I am not your enemy. I only kill those who truly deserve it. How many damn times do I have to repeat this to you, or to anyone else? Huh? Are you waiting for me to snap? Waiting for the day I break a neck, shouldn't I? Well, I'm not. I'm not a monster. I never will be. If you want me to kill you so badly, then go kill a few people first. Do that, and I'll come for you. He let the words hang, then sighed as if exhaling weight he didn't need. Or, he shrugged, softer now, almost conversational, you know what? This was kind of therapeutic. Try me. Come at me whenever you feel like it. Maybe by fighting me often, you'll learn the futility of your actions, and that I am not the enemy here, Bruce. He turned away, the red residue of the shrine folding like a curtain as the domain sealed itself. Night claimed the construction site again. Concrete, dust, the distant city hum. Jason's silhouette moved toward his car, deliberate, as if leaving the scene of a lesson rather than a slaughter. But Bruce's voice cracked through the quiet, raw and small. I need help. I am not the Bruce of your world. I am from an alternate Earth. Jason paused mid-step. The smirk drained from his face and something like curiosity, sharp and cold, crept into his eyes. He turned slowly, say what now? Jason turned slowly, the night folding around him like a held breath. Moonlight carved hard lines across his jaw as he fixed Bruce with a look that could have frozen fire. Now what do you mean by alternate Earth? Jason asked. Bruce carried himself slowly, the way a man carries a wound, careful not to expose it. It's a theory, one that proves our world has more than. Don't explain what an alternate Earth is to me, Jason snapped, cutting him off. I already know that. Explain to me why the hell an alternate Earth Bruce is here. If that's true, why are you attacking me? I genuinely thought you were our Bruce. For a moment, the silence stretched. Batman's cape rustled, his voice came low and clipped. You resemble someone I detest. I needed to face you. To learn whether you and that other person are the same. Jason let a slow, humorless laugh escape. So you came all this way to play judge and executioner? Charming. And now that you saw I'm not a carbon copy of whatever monster you hate, you want something from me. Bruce's eyes didn't flinch. He stepped closer, urgency folding his words. I need help. I need you to save my world. Help me defeat someone, a person of unimaginable strength. A friend. So let me get this straight, Jason said, folding his arms and fixing Batman with a steady look. On your Earth, Superman led a violent revolution, took control, built a dynasty, and now rules as dictator, killing anyone who resists or commits crimes? Batman's jaw was a flat line. Yes. Diana stepped forward, the disbelief carved into her voice. And I'm supposed to be his henchman? His second in command, enforcing that? Yes. The alternate Bruce's answer was blunt, stripped of theatrics. This sounds familiar, the Batman of their world murmured, more to himself than anyone else. Diana scoffed hard enough to echo. Not in my world. I would never do that. Jason held up a hand. Different Earths share threads of history, but not every stitch. There are worse timelines than the one you describe. We can't discount that. Superman, still uneasy, gave voice to the question that hung in the air. So what do we do about this? An alternate version of me has chosen tyranny. How do we stop him? Jason's eyes flicked to the window for a heartbeat. The war room swallowed his silence, his mind worked through options with a predator's efficiency. Normally I wouldn't give a damn, he thought, cold and practical. I'd send Clark and the League. Stay here and let them clean house. But this is different. I could kill a Kryptonian and a whole cadre of corrupted heroes. The amount of souls. He checked himself and refocused. Do you have a way back to your world? He asked quietly. Yes, the alternate Bruce replied. But not without caveats. The device I possess was built with help from an ally in my world. It makes a two-way portal, but it will break on its second use. If you join me, and you want a guaranteed return, we must first free the man held in Superman's prison. Jason's lips pursed. Dangerous. Dangerous is the job, Superman said immediately, stepping forward. I'll go. I can't sit here knowing a version of me has turned into that. I have to try. Bruce snapped his head toward him. Clark, you can't be gone long. Clark shook his head, voice threaded with resolve. I can't stay here either. Knowing that a version of me became a tyrant. It eats at me. Alternate Bruce watched Clark, his face softer for a moment. He is not devoid of goodness, he said. He lost his wife and son, killed in the chaos the Joker unleashed. He broke under the weight. His actions are not the solution, but know that he did not begin without pain. Jason's answer came without hesitation. I'll be the one to go. The room reacted like a struck chord. Diana's disbelief flared first. Jason, you'll go? She demanded. I'll leave the Pantheon in your hands, Diana. Nia will act as my second. I trust you both. He turned away from the heat of her stare. And no, this is solo. Don't ask to come with me. Alternate Bruce gave the declaration a dry, almost approving nod. Poetic. You've built something here that could at least serve as a vision, a warning of what Clark's choices can become. Jason let out a short, humorless laugh. I'll try to save him. But I make no promises. Your Clark isn't evil by nature. He's gone too far. It will be up to him whether we save him, or end him. Diana crossed her arms, the ache of a leader in her voice. How long do you think you'll be gone? Jason shrugged, the motion casual but absolute. Maybe a month. Maybe longer. It's not an easy job. The device is fragile, the prison will be fortified. Don't expect a fast return. But don't lose sleep over external threats, Warworld alone will deter most. Have faith. I'll be back. Stronger. Are you sure we can't come? Raven asked at last, voice small but steady. Jason met her gaze and smiled without humor. No. I need you to perfect your domain expansions. All of you. He leaned forward, the leader they trusted most when he spoke blunt truths. It's not that I can't trust you. It's that I can trust you enough to do this and protect the Pantheon without me. Raven's shoulders dropped a fraction, relief and a new urgency in the same breath. Livewire nodded once, decisively. Harley clapped, somehow managing both bravado and genuine faith. Red Hood simply exhaled and tucked his helmet in tighter. A faint ripple ran through the gathered team as if a bell had been tolled. Good luck out there, King, Red Hood called, half smirking, half saluting. King? Jason arched an eyebrow, the corner of his mouth twitching. Livewire shrugged, amusement hidden beneath steel. You called yourself the king of curses on the Warworld. We're the cursed ones. It fits. You are our king, ahaha. Harley crowed, bouncing forward to slap Jason on the back. It was ridiculous. It was sincere. Jason allowed the title to hang for a heartbeat, then shrugged. All right. I guess I am. He felt the weight of it settle like a second skin, something to wear and something to wield. Batman, alternate and steady, worked the portal's dial with clinical calm. The device was a cramped ring of humming metal, filaments tracing an artery of energy across the floor. It threw off a heat that felt both foreign and intimate. Around it, the air shimmered, folding into the first wrinkles of another world. You don't happen to be a laughing bat, right? He asked, voice dry. Batman's reply was the ghost of a smirk. No. Good. We wouldn't want to meet that one now. Said Jason. They stepped toward the ring together, two silhouettes, and when the portal accepted them, it did so like water swallowing a stone, clean, inevitable. Jason stood beneath the glare of noon and let the city's monument soak into him. The statue loomed over New Metropolis's central square, immense, polished, the face of a man carved into eternal command. Brass reflected the sun like an accusation. Shame, Jason thought, quiet enough only he could hear. When a man has to erect his own statue to prove authority, he murmured, it's the moment he realizes he has none. He turned away, boots ringing on the plaza's stone, and cut through the crowd. Soldiers of the regime, black armor rhymed in red, the S blazoned on every shoulder, moved like a second skin over the city. They were everywhere, checkpoints, towers, armored jeeps. The peace here had been bought with fear. A commotion pulled him to a crumbling alleyway. A teenager pressed to a wall, 4 guards with bats. The kid's graffiti, angry, bleeding letters, still red on the plaster. Damn your regime. Damn your Superman. Piss on your justice. The boy's back rose and fell under another swing. Blood darkened his shirt. Jason slowed and watched. One guard, the loud one, the type that believed slogans made him righteous, turned and barked. Hey you. Get the hell out of here. Now. Jason's gaze tracked the man's jaw, the useless pride in his chest. He stepped forward as if to read the vandalism up close and spoke like a man asking a simple question. If the people are so against this system, why are you supporting it? Aren't you part of the people too? The man spat. What are you talking about? You want a piece of this too? He raised his bat like he owned the afternoon. Superman's regime is the correct path, the soldier sneered, sweat and soapbox righteousness seeping together. Look around, no criminals. They fear him. They fear death. It's a utopia. You mean you kill everyone, Jason said softly. Even thieves? The man laughed like it was a sermon. They start as thieves, small time. Then they take a life. We get rid of them before they become worse. Natural-born trash. Jason watched the kid twist, trying to shield his head. Doesn't that make you the same? You're breaking the law right now. I can't imagine even Superman would sanction 4 men beating a teenager for vandalism. The loud man's face went hard. Enough of you. Get out before I smash your face in. For a moment it looked like he might have an answer. Then he didn't. Pride and training froze him where he stood, and the others tensed to strike Jason down for insolence. They moved at once, one swing, 4 bats arcing toward him. The next heartbeat was clean and brutal. Hands lost purchase. Bone and leather parted. Blood erupted like paint across the cobbles. 3 men fell, screaming and collapsing into themselves, their stumps ragged with ruin. The 4th, the one who'd argued, hit the ground on his ass, staring at the plaza as if he'd been shown a lie he could not swallow. Jason stood over them, breathing evenly. He didn't look triumphant, he looked bored, tired of explaining the obvious. You, quit this work and stay home, he said to the wounded man who still stared at him. His voice held no triumph, only a cold promise. Not long, but I will end this regime soon. He turned away from the broken men and the bleeding kid. The statue watched, bronze and smug. Someone's back from his personal picnic. You like what you saw? Harley Quinn tumbled in a chair, spinning herself into a dizzy grin. This Harley, wilder, more unhinged than the one Jason remembered, flipped a knife in her hand and laughed like it was Saturday. Jason ignored the show. He let his eyes roam the war room table, Batgirl, Black Lightning, Catwoman, Plastic Man, and Black Canary, her face a permanent shadow now, a widow in a world that had already taken too much. You genuinely thought I'd let my world reach this level of shithole? Jason said, dropping into a chair and dragging a weathered map toward him. Nah. I'm special. Honored, even. I breathe perfection in my world. He let the words hang and watched the faces. This Superman, weak. Mentally a child. He tapped the map with a finger. But with the power of a god. Are you going to keep speaking poetically forever, or are you going to show us what you can do? Black lightning snapped. Impatience crackled in his tone. Jason ignored the jibe and turned to the man who had been his reluctant host, the Batman of this broken earth. The man who can teleport me back to my world. You said he's stuck here. Batman's answer was precise and cold. Yes. The regime's supermax. We call it the Trench. It sits in the deepest part of the Mariana Trench, watched 24/7 by Cyborg. No metahuman or magical being escapes it, thanks to both Cyborg's tech and Raven's magic. Even Fate was imprisoned there. The helmet he wears, they can't remove it. Jason's eyebrow rose. And this? Mr. Terrific is in it? Yes, Batman replied. His suit's special. Cyborg couldn't unseal it. They placed a collar on him that forces a constant EMP effect, keeps his body and suit nullified. You must remove that collar, and then he'll help you teleport out. Interesting, Jason mused. He rubbed his chin. What kind of crime gets a man thrown in that hole? The room straightened. Even Harley's grin dimmed. Batman's voice went flat. Enough to threaten the regime. Enough to make their example indispensable. Why? What do you want to do? Black lightning cut in, blunt. I think we all know what he wants to do, and it's suicide. In there, magic and tech are nullified. It's a tomb. Catwoman's eyes narrowed. I like him, wild, uncompromising, but reckless. Plastic Man waved a rubbery hand and then brightened like he'd found the missing piece to a jigsaw. We don't need to go in from the outside. I can shrink, sneak inside Jason's ear, a hair, between clothes, tunnel through fabric or glands, whatever. I'll slip in, free him from the inside, expand, and boom, job done. They all stared at Plastic as if he'd just spoken genius for the first time in his life. The brief hope fizzled as Jason shut it down with a look. None of you will be involved, he said, voice final. You wait here. I'll save Mr. Terrific, destroy that facility, and come back. I shouldn't be long. Are you insane? Black Lightning barked. How confident are you? Batman asked. Jason shrugged like the weight of the world was a shrug. 100%. It's not much work for me to destroy it now, but the pressure would kill your men and other prisoners. Batman considered the cold honesty. Then we go with your plan. Don't fail us. Our world relies on you. Jason smiled, a flash of something like a promise. No problem. So, what crime should I commit? The room broke into conspiratorial grins. Hours later, under a gray dawn and a camera-studded skyline, Jason stood with hands bound, cuffed by the regime's soldiers. The charge read clear on the halos that circled him as he was escorted through the city. His crime? Destruction of the Superman statue. The investigator leaned in, eyes like cheap steel. So you think you can just waltz in and smash the Superman statue, huh? What, want to join Batman's little resistance by making a scene? Since you're so eager to act like a maniac and an anarchist, we'll send you straight to the trench for that. Jason said nothing. The cuffs bit at his wrists. He let the smirk work the edges of his face, a small thing to keep the room off balance. The interrogation door slid open and Cyborg stepped in, clean, efficient, a chrome silhouette that swallowed the light. He nodded to the investigator, who hesitated a beat and then left, closing the door behind him. The two of them were suddenly alone. You said his name is Giorno Derasai, Cyborg said, voice low and mechanical as he nudged a hand scanner toward Jason. He ran a quick sweep, data spilled across his ocular HUD. An Italian immigrant. Arrived 8 years ago. History of violence and petty crime. He looked up from the readout. Who put you up to this? Jason leaned back against the chair like a man who'd been waiting for this conversation all along. He sounded casual, almost apologetic, the role of the guilty ruffian, cheap and deliberate. None of that. Look, those regime dogs nearly killed a friend of mine for writing on a wall. I saw red. One of them came at me. I snapped. I went too far. That's all. Cyborg's face betrayed nothing. He tapped the HUD and the readouts danced. You expect me to believe you have no ties to the resistance? A metahuman with that power? Come on. You want to avoid the trench? Give me a name. A location. Help us stop this, help yourself. Jason let the bait sit a heartbeat, then shrugged like it was a joke. Oh, piss off with the scare tactics. I didn't do anything that warrants the trench. Judges will rule in my favor. Not here. Cyborg's voice was a flat steel blade. This is Superman's regime. He is the judge. We are the executioner. When you go to the trench, you'll sing like a bird. He stood, an ordered motion. Get him out of here. Guards flooded the doorway. Rough hands shoved and hauled. A hood was yanked over Jason's head, pinching cold against the sweat at his temples. He was bundled into the back of a transport as cameras blinked like stars. The next hours blurred. A plane with blacked-out windows, the metallic sway of a transfer, then a submarine's confined air. Jason tasted salt and diesel and the metallic tang of compression. He kept a ready smile under the hood, amused by the theater of it all. When they finally shoved him through a hatch and peeled the hood away, light hit him like an accusation. He stood in a clinical white cell that might have been lifted from a nightmare of asylums. Bare walls, a narrow bed bolted to the floor, a single stainless toilet. Sterile. Intentional. Meant to strip a man down to nothing. Wow, Jason said aloud, the sound of him in the room like a dare. Quite the shitty place. The Supermax prison, deep in the Mariana Trench, stretched invisibly around him, pressure, technology, and the regime's certainty wrapped in concrete and steel. Jason's cuffs were cold against his skin, but his eyes were warm with something else. The game had only just begun. The cell door sighed open after days of stale air and thin meals. A guard barked the number like a roll call. Inmate 778, out now. Jason flexed his wrists against the cold cuffs. The guard hustled up and ran a scanner along the padded collar clamped at his throat. Metahuman nullifying collar, check. He leaned close, voice flat, you get 1 hour in the courtyard. Keep to yourself. Any suspicious activity and it's a month in solitary. You think this place is bad? You aren't ready for the solitary. Move slow. Don't try anything stupid. Jason smiled with all the innocence of a man about to do something very stupid. Yes, sir. Just wanted a stretch. Thanks. They shoved him through the heavy doors and into the yard, if you could call this slab of concrete and barbed steel a yard. Guards lined the perimeter, and a few prison drones hovered like flies. Jason sniffed the air and let a humorless laugh go. Y'all call this a courtyard? Keep your comment to yourself, the guard snapped, shoving him forward. Say another word and you'll be back in a cell. Jason walked the length of the place, cataloging faces, Grodd in a containment harness, Bane wrapped in straps, King Shark slumped in the artificial sun, Captain Boomerang pacing, Guy Gardner nursing his jaw. Sheesh, the whole squad's here, he muttered. He scanned for his target. At a metal table in the far corner, alone and twitching with contained energy, sat Mr. Terrific. He watched the yard with a wire-tight jaw, fingers worrying a simple tool. Jason slid into the bench opposite him like someone who belonged. Looks like someone's already planning his escape, eh? Jason said casually. Mr. Terrific didn't even blink. Who the hell are you? Friend, Jason replied. A friend who wants you out of here. The tech savant snorted. You from the regime? Don't waste your breath. I've heard every angle. Jason kept his tone level, low enough that the guards couldn't hear. I could take out every guard in 10 seconds and snap every collar off these people. But I need to know, if I remove your collar, does your suit come back online? I need you to open a portal before I level this place. Mr. Terrific's eyes went sharp as razors. Are you out of your mind? Whatever game you're playing, I'm not part of it. Really? Jason leaned forward, like he was about to reveal a secret and not an execution plan. You gonna give up after calling me all this way from another world? Something in the line, haunting, precise, punctured whatever resolve the man had left. Mr. Terrific almost stood, then forced himself to stay seated. He breathed. The plan worked, he whispered. You have to keep it quiet. And yes, the collar is holding me down. But it's not purely tech, Raven's magic is woven into it. It's a hybrid. He cut himself off. The sentence was never finished. Jason's fingers made a motion like a scalpel. The air around the collar shimmered for a fraction of a second, no visible slash, no sonic crack, then the band snapped and clattered onto the table, severed clean as if cut by invisible wire. Not an atom seemed to shift in the mechanism, and yet the collar lay inert and defeated. A stunned breath left Mr. Terrific. His suit's HUD flickered, the dormant systems waking with a soft mechanical chorus. How did? Jason's grin was a blade. You good now? Yeah, Mr. Terrific said, eyes darting to the corridor. My systems, coming online. But we don't have a plan. How do we get out? Jason didn't bother with drama. He threw one quick glance across the yard. Inmates shifted, guards paced, drones blinked. Then, with a gesture like flipping a switch, the same thing happened to every collar in the courtyard, each one clattered to the concrete, a chorus of metal hitting stone. Guards hollered. Men hit the ground on instinct, then scrambled up with a new kind of hunger in their eyes. Grodd's harness strained, Bane flexed, King Shark rose like a slow tide. Jason laughed, and it sounded dangerously like triumph. Let the fun begin, he said, voices, footsteps, and chaos spilling out like a wound opening. The guards froze the instant the collars hit the ground, their training short-circuiting at the sight of every inmate in the yard suddenly crackling with energy and power. Hands in the air, now. No sudden movements, one shouted, voice trembling under the weight of panic. The head jailer slammed his fist on the comms. Emergency, emergency, this is not a drill. Prisoners have regained their powers. Collars are offline. Klaxons erupted. Red lights washed over the walls as the underwater prison sealed itself tighter, blast doors dropping, barriers activating, shock turrets powering up. Every guard in sight scrambled to ready their rifles, shouting orders that no one could hear over the alarms. Jason watched the confusion unfold, his grin widening. He stepped onto a table like a performer about to announce a grand finale. Ladies and gentlemen, he bellowed, voice booming over the noise. It's escape time. Let's have some fun, shall we? The guards are all yours. A roar tore through the courtyard. Hell yeah. Let's kill them all, bellowed Bane, his veins flaring green as venom pumped back into his system. He grabbed the nearest guard and smashed his helmet into the ground like a hammer. This is our revenge, declared Gorilla Grodd, his telepathy surging back as he snapped another guard's neck with a flick of thought. A burst of flame lit the entire yard, heat waves rolling across the steel walls as Firestorm materialized mid-air, laughing maniacally. Ha ha ha, we're so back, baby. Jason shielded his face from the blaze, eyes wide for a moment. Guess the two of them got separated for way too long. Before he could even finish, a flash of gold streaked across his vision. A hum filled the air, ancient and divine. Jason turned his head slowly, and there it was. The helmet of fate, he muttered. It hovered for a heartbeat before settling onto its master's head. The courtyard filled with golden light as Kent Nelson's body lifted off the ground, power radiating from him in waves. The sheer force sent a dozen guards tumbling back like rag dolls. Jason watched in awe for a second, then smirked. Beautiful, isn't it? Now, all we need is a nice little portal out of here. Mr. Terrific was already typing on a wrist panel, his T-spheres orbiting him in glowing synchronization. Wow, okay, yeah. Give me a few minutes. Shouldn't be a problem. But, we need to get the others out too. Jason turned, half laughing. Of course. What do you think I'm doing this for? Clearly because I love teamwork. Everyone will escape. Terrific blinked, realization hitting. Wait, you mean everyone? I thought this was just to free the heroes. Half these people are murderers. Jason waved him off. Doesn't matter. We need all the muscle we can get to take down Superman. We'll deal with these psychos after. For now, everyone's free. As if to punctuate his words, an explosion rocked the far wall. A surge of white plasma tore through the yard, hurling Bane across the ground like a broken toy. From the burning smoke, a portal flickered, and stepping out came Cyborg, weapon systems primed, red eye locked on Jason. Behind him followed Raven, her dark aura pulsing, Yellow Lantern Hal Jordan glowing like a miniature sun, and Hawkman, his wings slicing the air as he landed with a thud. Cyborg's voice cut through the chaos, flat and loaded with authority. Back in your cells, or I rip the heads off everyone here. For a breath, the yard froze. These were not men who cared for rules, but under Superman's regime even villains learned the price of stepping out of line. Nah. I don't feel like it, Tin Can. Jason stepped forward, letting his boots thump the concrete. He looked down at Cyborg like a man inspecting a broken toy. What are you gonna do about it? Cyborg answered with 2 blasts of concentrated energy. Raven's tendrils followed, dark and lethal. Guards scattered, shouts, the metallic clank of weapons, but both attacks struck empty air. Jason stood where the projectiles died, untouched. Oh yeah? Hal's voice cut through, yellow light coiling around his fist. I heard about that trick of yours, cutting from far away. Let's see what you can do to this. He lashed out with a lantern-augmented punch. Jason caught Hal's fist mid-swing like catching a child's toy. The grin on his face was slow and hungry. I can do this. He twisted and returned the blow, hard. Hal went sailing, a comet of living light slamming into the courtyard wall and crumpling in a heap. Enough. Raven's command came like a blade, shadowed tendrils ripped up from the floor where Jason had been. For a second it looked like he'd been swallowed, then he was in her face, one hand on her jaw, slamming her onto the concrete. Raven hit the ground, breath knocked out, Raven's dark eyes staring up. Stay down, Jason said, voice low. Don't make me hurt you specifically. Cyborg and Hawkwoman moved at once, weapons primed, wings beating with predatory intent. But before they closed the distance, 2 figures materialized in a streak of coordinated power, Firestorm bursting into the fray with a roaring cascade of plasma and Dr. Fate descending in a halo of golden light. Their arrival tore the momentum from the regime side. The freed inmates, sensing the shift, rose like a tide. Now's our chance. They can't stop us, let's kill them. Bane roared, cracking his knuckles. Jason's expression went flat as a blade. He swept an arm toward the portal Mr. Terrific had stabilized in the far corner of the yard. No. His voice had the iron of command. You, he pointed at the swarm of newly freed villains, you go through there. He didn't elaborate. He didn't need to. The portal glowed hungry and wide, Mr. Terrific's tech humming at its rim. Guards scrambled, Fate readied, and Cyborg recalibrated, but the decision came clean and final. Jason's plan was moving, one brutal and chaotic piece at a time. Hal Jordan's yellow light coiled into a massive claw, swiping at him with serrated edges. Jason leaned under it, boots grinding against metal flooring, hands shooting up to grab the construct. The fear-forged energy screeched under his grip, cracking. Hal's eyes widened, then Jason ripped the construct apart with raw force and launched himself forward. Hal barely formed a shield before Jason's fist smashed through it and collided with his chest. The yellow lantern was thrown back across the courtyard, armor cracking, breath ripped from his lungs. Come on, tough guy, Jason muttered, rolling his shoulder as Hal floated back up, rage twisting his face. Raven struck then. Dark tendrils tore through the air, latching onto Jason's arms and legs, trying to restrain him while shadowy runes formed beneath his feet. Her voice was cold, merciless. "You should have stayed in your cell." Jason snarled and pulled, muscles bulging, the ground cracking beneath him. With one brutal heave, he shattered her bindings. She lifted her hand again, chanting. Jason was already in front of her. His knee crashed into her stomach, lifting her off the ground. Before she could recover, he grabbed her cloak, spun, and slammed her spine first into the concrete. She gasped, magic flickering around her fingers. He raised a fist, then paused, knuckles inches from her face. "I said stay down." But Hal didn't listen. Yellow chains shot around Jason's throat and torso, yanking him back. Hal descended with a spear of fear energy, eyes bloodshot. "Kneel or I tear you apart." Jason grabbed the chain around his neck and pulled hard, dragging Hal forward like hauling a fish on a line. Jason's fist met Hal's jaw mid-air, snapping his head to the side. Before Hal could fall, Jason slammed him into the ground face first, knee on his spine. Hal coughed blood, growling through his teeth. "You, filth." Jason didn't respond. He tightened his grip around Hal's wrist, hard enough to make bones creak but didn't break it. "You're not worth that." Raven, floating back up with dark wings blooming behind her, screamed in fury and launched a wave of black flame. Jason barely raised an arm to block, his skin burned slightly, but he pushed through anyway and tackled her mid-air, pinning her against the wall. She tried to mutter an incantation, and Jason covered her mouth with his hand. "I told you once." She froze, eyes full of hatred and fear. Then he released her, letting her drop to one knee. "Come at me again. And I won't be so merciful." Dr. Fate hovered above the courtyard, golden sigils swirling around his hands as Hawkman dove at him, mace crackling with nth metal energy. Clang! Fate conjured a glowing shield, blocking the strike. Hawkman roared, savage and unhinged, swinging again and again. Fate answered not with rage but with precise, surgical blasts of mystic force that shoved Hawkman back, wings tearing grooves in the floor as he skidded. Firestorm clashed with Cyborg near the shattered guard towers. "You freaks don't get to walk out," Cyborg snarled, arm transforming into a high-power plasma cannon. He fired, a searing blue beam. Firestorm caught it, redirected it to the sky, and fired a nuclear burst in return. Cyborg's shield flickered under the impact as flames scorched the walls around them. "You're outdated tech, Tin Man," Firestorm yelled. Cyborg replied with a cannon blast aimed straight for his head. Mr. Terrific stood beside the glowing gateway, T-spheres orbiting defensively. One hand held a broken guard rifle, his other typed furiously on the floating holographic panel stabilizing the portal. "Inmates! Move! Now!" Drones descended from the ceiling, automatic turrets firing stun rounds. Terrific's T-spheres intercepted them, firing concussive blasts. Guards attempted to rush the portal. Terrific elbowed one in the jaw, disarmed another, and sent a third flying with an energy pulse. Behind him, dozens of prisoners sprinted through the portal to freedom. "Keep moving," he shouted. "I can't hold this thing forever." Jason glanced back and saw Mr. Terrific's final nod. The last of the prisoners vanished through the wavering aperture. He didn't hesitate. "Fate. Firestorm. Join Terrific and go through that portal. You too, Terrific. Keep it open for 1 minute. I won't be late." His voice was a command, dry and patient. Fate and Firestorm surged forward, golden and incandescent. Terrific's T-spheres hummed as he stepped through. The ring of energy pulsed like a heartbeat. Jason twisted on his heel just as Hal's hammer smashed down where he'd stood. He ducked, rolled, and launched himself back on the balls of his feet. Domain expansion, malevolent shrine. Reality folded like a paper map. The courtyard vanished. Concrete became black, glass became water underfoot that held their weight as if mocking the laws of nature. Far behind, a lacquered Shinto shrine rose, blood-red torii pierced an infinite sky, lanterns swinging though there was no wind. The shrine's eaves seemed to drip shadows. The whole place breathed with a patient, ancient hunger. A scent like cold iron and old grief hung in the air. Hal's yellow constructs froze mid-flight. Raven's tendrils thinned as if struck by an unseen blade. Cyborg's hut stuttered, then went dark. Hawkman's wings beat against a new kind of vacuum and he spat a curse of surprise. They all found themselves rooted to the same truth: something fundamental had changed, and it obeyed Jason. Jason stood in the center like a dark sun. His silhouette was calm, effortless authority in the ruin of a world that had tried to break him. "Now then," he said, voice low and clear. "I'll say it once. Who among you here wants to stand down? This will be the last warning." Silence. Then, with a howled tirade of rage, Hawkman dove, screaming, mace raised, fury unbalanced and desperate. It ended worse than any of them expected. Jason met him and the courtyard answered in a single, clean motion. Bone, metal, feather and armor split as if the world itself obeyed a blade's will. Hawkman's body came apart, for ragged segments, each falling in a small, terrible arc. He struck the concrete and went still. The sound was a silence thick enough to choke on. Cyborg's analysis failed for him where it had not failed for others. He scanned, recalibrated, and hit diagnostics. Nothing complied. "What the hell is this? I can't analyze it," he managed, a tremor in the words. Raven sank to her knees, dark smoke spilling from the tips of her fingers. The word left her like a confession and a curse: magic, the worst kind, full of hatred and evil, cursed. Hal pushed, yellow power blooming into monstrous shapes, 4 gunships tearing across the field, rockets spitting, miniguns chattering, the air a raw furnace of violent intent. He poured the lantern's will into a crushing onslaught. Everything collapsed before the shrine. Rockets and miniguns were shredded into confetti mid-flight. The gunships themselves were cleaved in half like toys. Trains that had been ripped from tracks thundered toward Jason, 2 iron monsters barreling at him from opposite sides, and were sliced into jagged, immobile ruins before they closed the distance. Every assault stopped short as if it had met a blade no eye could see. Jason didn't move like a man fighting to win. He moved like a judge delivering sentence. Hal's head rolled across the concrete, yellow energy sputtered, then died. It thumped and came to rest, disconnected. The courtyard tasted of ozone and copper. "Hal!" Cyborg screamed, raw, accusing. "You are crazy. Do you know what you've done? Superman will end you, he will destroy you. I don't know who you truly are, but this will end with your death." Jason's sigh was bored and final. Those are not so beautiful last words. His motion was a single clean line. Cyborg split in 2. The world did not bother with theatrics, metal and flesh gave way together. He fell, systems stuttering into black nothingness. Raven's eyes were wide and luminous with dread. Jason leaned close, the shrine's shadow washing across her face, and spoke like a benediction and an omen all at once. "You get to live," he said, quiet and cold. "Let Superman and his regime know that Jason Anderson, the king of curses, is coming for them." The malevolent shrine folded away. The courtyard reasserted itself for a breath: broken concrete, ruined bodies, the terrified silence of the defeated. Then Jason did what he'd come to do. He took a long, deliberate swing with the force he used when he meant to end mountains. The prison split. A crack like a scream tore from the foundation. Steel groaned. The structural seams that had held the Supermax together parted like paper. The Mariana Trench's pressure, liberated by the sudden breach, rushed in one cold, impossibly heavy tide. The Supermax imploded inward, concrete collapsing on itself as if some titan had pinched its ribs closed. Screams were swallowed by the dark press of water and steel. The air was torn from the yard, and the facility folded into oblivion. The chapel smelled of cedar and rain, clean, solemn, a thin, brittle sort of peace that couldn't hold back the weight in the room. 3 coffins lay side by side beneath the stained glass, each one draped in a simple black cloth. Superman stood before them like a statue, jaw clenched, hands folded until his knuckles burned. They were good people, heroes, he said, voice hollow. And I failed to save them. His eyes lifted, as if searching for a face that wasn't there. Just like I failed to save Lois. A soft presence folded into him. Diana's arms came around his shoulders, strong and sure. Her voice was steadier than the tremor in his. It wasn't only you who failed. We were lenient with the resistance. We offered them a line to step back from, and they crossed it. We gave them chances. That ends now. She drew back and the room seemed to thicken with purpose. No more prisons, she said, words falling like iron. They destroyed one we built. The answer is final. Death. The others in the room responded like soldiers to a drumbeat. Sinestro inclined his head, the cold diplomacy of a conqueror. The Corps stands ready for your orders. Regime forces are mobilized, Deathstroke said, voice clipped, efficient. If they want war, we will give them war. Black Adam's growl was a thing of granite and oath. You are the king now. Mercy for those who deserve it only. They have crossed every limit. Hawkwoman's eyes shone with grief sharpened into something harder. My husband died for you. Grant me my vengeance. Flash. Barry opened his mouth, a plea trying to breathe between grief and reason. Hey, aren't we going too far? These were people we fought beside for years. Capture them, judge them, don't. Diana's hand snapped into the air like a verdict. Barry. You either stand with us or you stand with them. There is no middle ground. They crossed the line. Hesitation will get us all killed. Silence fell around the word. Superman turned, the weight of leadership settling on his shoulders like fresh iron. He looked at the faces gathered, grim, broken, ready. Jason Anderson, he said, the name spat out as if it burned. Whoever he is. I will end him. And all of them. He stepped forward, the chapel no longer a place of mourning but a war room in embryo. If I want true peace, he told them in a voice that carried the freeze of absolute conviction, I must act like a leader. And as your leader, here is my order. We are at war. With anyone tied to the resistance. Jason surveyed the assembled faces with the practiced calm of a man who had just finished a trick and was waiting for the applause. Well? Impressed now? He asked, voice easy, like a man asking about the weather. Batman's jaw was a line. You released a bunch of criminals. Why should I be impressed? His words were flat, legal, moral, everything Jason had set out to complicate. Jason sighed, amused. A bunch of prisoners who will do anything you ask them to. Ain't that right, fools? He let his gaze sweep the yard. 200 hardened faces turned toward him. They nodded, slow, hesitant, coated in a new kind of reverence. Not the reverence of love, but the cold respect that comes when someone redefines the rules of survival. They had watched him tear through the regime's supermax, watched their collars fall, watched the statues be torn down and the guards fall. They had seen heroes die. They had seen him carve a way out of the Mariana Trench. That fear and awe made a strange loyalty. Jason let the silence sit a beat longer, savoring it like a vintage. See, he said quietly. Now make the plan for war. You said Superman is holed up in the Hall of Justice, sitting on a throne like a king, right? Well, all kings fall eventually. He turned away before the room could erupt into debate or instruction. The work was done for the moment, strategies would come, plans would be made. For now, he needed one simple thing. It was time for a nap. Here you go, Guy. Take this. Batman set a reinforced box on the table. Guy opened it without ceremony, an old, scuffed Green Lantern ring rolled into his palm and slid onto his finger. Oh hell yeah. Best feeling ever. Guy's grin split his face as the green light flared back to life. Where'd you find this? After Billy died, Batman said flatly, I stole it and hid it. Mr. Terrific approached, slow and cautious. So you found him in another world. He's strong, but not the type you'd pick. Batman didn't bother with a long answer. I had no choice. With you arrested and the research stalled, I activated the portal at random and landed in his world. It's similar to ours, but Superman hadn't gone mad there. Instead, there's this kid. He jabbed a thumb toward the Warworld's holomap. Strong enough to do what Clark is doing now, but he didn't go as far. He kills, yes, but only those he decides can't come back. And you're okay with that? Mr. Terrific asked. No. Batman's voice was blunt. The kid's got a god complex. I don't like it. But at least he keeps the public out of it and doesn't kill indiscriminately. Our Clark is beyond that. He attacks critics, murders resistors, imprisons people for trivial offenses. He's a maniac. The only way to stop a maniac is with another kind of force, someone who can match him. Fight fire with fire, then, Guy said, shrugging. Something like that, Batman replied. Once our fire does the work, we send this other fire back through the portal. Mr. Terrific blinked. So that's why I was the first target to free? The kid wanted a guaranteed way home? Yes, Batman said. But I trust him enough to carry this fight through. Now, let's focus. The real deal, war on the regime. Mr. Terrific ran a hand over his jaw. Superman's making a public announcement tomorrow morning, warning Hal and the others. We use that. We crash the memorial and take him down. Batman nodded once. Then it's settled. The war starts tomorrow. We have long been trying to stay lenient, out of respect for our former partnership, but not anymore. Superman's voice rolled over the Hall of Justice Plaza, amplified and immaculate. The resistance has crossed the line. I will not allow any more deaths from the regime. So today, I will end it all. Today we are declaring war, on the resistance and on Batman. The crowd below him stilled. The regime's heroes lined the rooftop and terraces, their armor, their banners, their hard, hungry faces. Media drones hovered like 100 hungry eyes. Support had swelled in recent weeks, successful raids, show trials, a relentless media campaign, and now the commander-in-chief spoke from the sky. All I ever wanted was to put an end to crime around the world, Clark continued. Yet it seems our former fellows are content to let monsters walk free. I, Superman, shall not allow that. I will kill them all. Lightning answered the proclamation. A bolt slammed into the plaza where Superman hovered. The blast rocked him sideways, he was thrown into the Justice Hall's facade and slammed against stone. People screamed. Smoke and dust filled the air. Above the chaos, a single figure hung in the sky, arms steady, eyes cold. He held a Vajra Kamatuk in his right hand and a trident carved with divine runes in his left, the Trishula He-10, humming with a strange gravity that kept him aloft. Jason hung there, looking down at the staggered, knocked-back Superman and the stunned regime. He let the plaza hear him as easily as he could. The war you just declared has just started, he said. And now I'm here, the killer of your allies. So? What will you do about it? Wonder Woman reacted first. A whip lashed toward Jason, aimed to bind. The Trishula glowed green and the whip slammed back into whips and straps, snapping in the air where it came. From his position above, Jason sent a dismantle at Diana, a long-range slice of force headed straight for her chest. She slammed her shield up and the attack struck it. Good instinct, Jason called down, loud and casual, but you ain't my target. He followed the line of his own momentum. A brutal kick to the shield that sent her flying through the air and crashing into a row of marble statues. You murderer, someone screamed. Hawk Girl, charging with a mace, closed the distance in a blind, furious line. Jason sidestepped, planted the trishula, and drove it forward. The deep blue shaft, engraved with ancient sigils, pierced home. Blood smeared the prongs. Hawk Girl went limp like a rag and slumped from his weapon. Jason tossed the body aside without hesitation. "Know your places, fools," he said, cold and precise. "I'm only here for Superman." Then the plaza erupted. Explosions rolled outwards as the resistance force hit the square, heroes who'd stood with Batman, the ragged veterans of underground cells, and the escaped prisoners from the trench, a wild, ugly tide of power and wrath. They poured into the Hall of Justice grounds, and the war that had been declared a moment earlier had a very immediate answer: open combat. The battle erupted in full chaos. Batman moved first. A series of explosive pellets shot from his gauntlet, blasting against Wonder Woman's bracers and armor, forcing her back a step with a shocked expression. Before she could recover, Catwoman flipped in, landing a sharp kick across Diana's face. "Just you two? You're really underestimating me, Bruce," Wonder Woman said, sword in hand. "There's 3 of us, hun," said a voice from behind. One of the broken concrete slabs morphed into a giant fist and smashed into Wonder Woman's jaw, knocking her sideways. Plastic Man stretched back with a grin. "Bats doesn't go into battles without me." Wonder Woman wiped the blood from her lip. Her expression turned cold as she pointed her sword at them. "You. Superman spared you once. But I won't." High above the battlefield, Captain Atom hovered midair, firing compressed nuclear blasts down at the resistance forces, explosions lighting up the plaza. A golden cross-shaped barrier suddenly formed, blocking one of his blasts entirely. Dr. Fate floated forward, cloak flowing, eyes glowing behind the helmet of Nabu. "You have broken the laws of order for far too long." "A soldier who betrayed his world," Fate said calmly. Captain Atom narrowed his eyes. "You're the one who betrayed order." "Superman brought real stability. Criminals fear us now. This is the only way." "You have become the evil you claim to fight," Dr. Fate replied as glowing magical symbols formed around his hands. On the ground, Flash tore through regime enemies, until suddenly the asphalt under him froze solid. He slipped, rolling across ice. Captain Cold walked forward, twirling his freeze gun. "Hey Flashy, prison's been boring without you." "Missed ya, Leonard." "Enjoy your few hours of freedom," Barry growled. "Because I'm sending you right back." He charged, but lightning struck from the side, sending Barry tumbling. Black Lightning stood beside Cold. "You confuse me, Barry. You're the last one of them with a heart. So why still follow him? You know Superman's a monster." Barry stood slowly, fists clenched. "Monster or not, he's right. Criminals have to be stopped." "Not this way, Barry." "Not this way," Black Lightning said. High above, Black Adam shot down toward Jason like a missile. A green fist met him midair and sent him spinning back. "I'm back now, you bastard." "And not alone this time," yelled Guy Gardner, his Green Lantern ring burning with emerald light. "I can't take my anger out on Hal anymore, but you?" Guy smirked, forming a massive construct mace. "Oh, I can beat the hell out of you." He charged Black Adam again. Superman staggered out of the rubble of the earlier lightning strike. He looked around at the open assault on his regime. His jaw clenched. His pride burned. Enough. His voice boomed like thunder across the plaza, echoing across the city. But the moment he shouted, a fist cracked across his face and sent him crashing back into the broken steps of the Hall of Justice. Jason landed. "Enough of what? You still think you hold power here," he said, walking forward step by steady step. "No. Not anymore. I'm here. Your world is mine now. Your existence ends today. All the good and evil you've done, finalized." Superman rose, blood at the corner of his lip. "Who are you?" he asked, bracing into a fighting stance. His eyes glowed, ready to burn. Jason didn't stop walking. I am the pain of Green Arrow, when you snapped his neck. The trishula in his hand began to spin, dragging the air in a violent swirl around it. I am the cries of Shazam, when you burned his eyes. Wind screamed around Jason, rubble lifting off the ground around him. I am the vengeance of Martian Manhunter, when you punched through his chest. Superman's expression darkened. Jason's voice dropped colder. I am every child you killed because they didn't agree with your rule. I am the thing you see in your dreams. He lifted his weapon. Your own special curse. He paused, then finished. And that curse? I am its fulfillment. Me? Is that who you're calling evil? Me? Huh? Me? Superman snapped, fists clenched, eyes burning red, the marble floor underneath him cracking. He took a step forward, voice trembling with rage. I protected everyone. I gave them chances. I forgave. I believed in humanity. And what did it give me? My home destroyed. My people dead. My wife, my unborn child, gone. The ground shattered as he launched forward at full speed, but the wind condensed around Jason, slowing Superman's charge. Lightning speared down from both flanks. He kept pushing through it, until flames erupted. A wave of divine hellfire engulfed him. Fuga, divine flames. Superman was thrown back, cape burned off, suit scorched, smoke rising from his skin. Jason walked forward, expression cold. Oh, boo-hoo. My wife, my people, my unborn child. Sure, cry about Joker. Fine. But then you killed teenagers for disagreeing with you. You burned the eyes out of a 10-year-old boy who called you his hero. You crossed the line long ago. Jason was already in front of him, hand on Superman's face, cleave slicing across his skin. Even Kryptonian flesh bled under cursed energy, red lines in the shape of X's tearing across his face. Superman roared and punched Jason in the gut, sending him flying through the upper walls of the Hall of Justice. Stone shattered. Jason didn't care. He stood up on the debris. You're a worthless hero. Compared to the Superman of my world? You're pathetic. A fake who lost hope. You let yourself get manipulated. You teamed up with Yellow Lanterns. You took in Black Adam and called it order. You're not a king. You're just a tyrant throwing a tantrum when people stop kneeling. You bastard. Superman snapped. His heat vision swept through the Hall of Justice like a sun-sized blade, vaporizing pillars, statues, half the building, gone. But Jason was behind him. The punch cracked Superman's cheekbone. The real Superman would have had me on the ground already, Jason said. But you? One insult and you're throwing a fit like some toddler who found daddy's gun. Superman stopped, breathing heavily. His eyes were dead calm now. You die now. Before Jason could react, Superman's hand wrapped around his throat. He blasted forward, dragging Jason across the concrete ground, carving a trench more than 5 kilometers long. Buildings shattered in their wake. Superman lifted the bloodied, torn Jason and pummeled him. Again, and again, bones cracking, skin peeling away. Then. Laser. Full power. Point blank. Jason's face vaporized. Ag. Die. Superman dropped the limp, burned corpse. Panting. Laughing weakly. Ha, ha, ha. Wow, you really did a number on him. Superman turned, Jason stood behind him, fully healed, looking down at his own corpse dissolving into shadows. The body on the ground melted away, revealing glowing owl-like eyes in the dark. That's new. Only people who can sense cursed energy can tell the difference. Guess you're not one of them. You damn trickster, you and your magic, Superman snarled and swung. But he stopped. Because standing in front of him now was something else. A towering, monstrous humanoid, muscled, twisted, 4 giant wings jutting from its eye sockets, a long tail-like appendage trailing from its skull. And above its head, a massive, rotating 8-handled wheel. Jason smirked. Clark, meet the 8-handled sword Divergent Sela Divine General, Maharaga. He loves arrogant, self-proclaimed gods like you. Superman snarled. Ugh, another trick? Fine, I'll kill him too. He dove at Maharaga and slammed a fist into the creature's face. The two locked in a brutal punch-out. Superman clearly held the upper hand. Every blow from Clark staggered Maharaga, forcing the giant down again and again. Jason watched, unimpressed. Guess one isn't enough for a big man like you, eh? No matter. Here's another. From behind Jason, a new shape unfolded. A towering Shikigami with a feathered mane, a gnu-like mask, clawed feather arms, black antlers, a striped feminine torso, tiger feet and a snake-headed tail. Jason slapped its shoulder. With Agito here, Jason said, it now seems fair. 3 versus 1. Kinda feels nostalgic. They attacked as a single storm, Maharaga charging, Agito striking like a wild blade, and Jason using reach and technique. Superman answered with blinding speed. Lasers, crushing punches, breath that froze Agito's legs solid. Agito shattered the ice and slammed a punch into Superman, but Clark grabbed his arm, ripped it free, and hurled it like a club into Maharaga. Jason dove from behind and put his palm to Superman's back, a cleave scoring across the Man of Steel's spine. Clark spun and threw a fist. The Trishula's wind field took the impact and kept the blow from reaching Jason. Jason slammed his Vajra into Clark's chest. Lightning lanced through, carrying the force back into Maharaga, who locked his arms around Superman's torso to hold him tight while Agito rained blows with his remaining hand. Ag! Superman screamed, and wrenched himself free, slamming Agito with raw force. Jason moved in to help, but Superman lasered him in the chest, blasting him through the air. Clark then dove on Agito from behind, grabbed the Shikigami by the throat and with brutal efficiency snapped its neck clean off, tearing it away. One down, Superman said coldly. Jason dropped back beside Maharaga, clapping once. Impressive. Really? Even with all 3 of us? Wow. Shocked. Bravo. Superman advanced, eyes like furnaces. All the quips won't save you. I'll rip your head off like I did this thing. Jason shrugged. Well? Did you finally adapt? Maharaga didn't answer. It changed. A sickly green aura crawled over its flesh. Superman's face went from rage to a flash of recognition and alarm. Jason's voice was flat, clinical. See, Supes. Maharaga isn't just for normal combat. He adapts. With the data I fed him about you, he learned to imitate Kryptonite's energy. Not just mimic, channel it. Jason pressed a hand to Maharaga's shoulder. The same green energy flowed from the Shikigami into Jason, coating him in the same sick glow. And, Jason added, watching Clark, I can use it too. Both Jason and Maharaga slammed into Superman like a hammer and anvil, 2 predators trained to finish a single kill. They did not dance around him, they put him in the center and stripped him raw. Fists rained, kicks hammered, the cadence brutal and unrelenting. Each blow bit deeper than the last. Superman dodged, he blocked, but the strikes found purchase. With every hit, his speed shuddered, his ribs tightened, his breath came harder. This double assault was dedicated to one purpose, to end him. Ag! Superman roared and lasered in blind fury, heat vision carving the plaza sky, only for Jason's hand to clamp around his throat and force his head up. The laser scoured the air while Maharaga's fists kept crashing into Superman's midsection. The Shikigami's blows were ugly and efficient, they did not seek elegant finishes, only to crush and to weaken. Superman's gut took blow after blow until he doubled, breath stuttering as the green aura on Maharaga seemed to sap the light from him. Superman found a gap. An elbow drove into Jason's sternum, sending him staggering. He spun, lasered Maharaga with a furious beam that shredded armor and flesh alike, then hurtled forward and slammed into Jason so hard they both skidded across the marble and shattered a row of statues. "You are not going to stop me. Never!" Superman screamed, fists swinging like tectonic plates. He hammered at Jason with everything left in him. Jason ate the blows, cheeks splitting, blood foaming at his mouth, and smiled through it, the grin wet with the copper taste of his own teeth. "Look at that," Jason rasped, wiping a smear with the back of his hand. "Your punches are weaker. And weaker. How long will you keep going, eh?" Maharaga came behind him again and rammed into Superman, forcing the last sun off Jason for a second. The two titans slammed into one another, punch for punch, shove for shove, locked in a brutal stalemate that rocked the plaza. For a beat, it looked like neither would give. Then Superman's voice rose, furious and fevered. "You think I haven't fought kryptonite? I lived with it. I adapted." He spat the confession like a weapon. "Every day for a year, room full of it. I trained through the burn. I learned to resist. Nothing can stop me." He backed the words with violence. Superman punched Maharaga with a series of blows that would have felled mountains. He wrenched the Shikigami's head, fingers plunging toward eyes in a blind bid to split skull from bone. The attack was savage, close to obscene in its intent. Jason intervened, kicking Superman away hard enough to buy time. He didn't clear the distance, he couldn't. Maharaga dropped to his knees, the green aura sputtering as injuries opened like dark maps across his body. He was almost finished, racked and hollow. Superman stood over the crumpled form, chest heaving. He looked at Jason with a cold, absolute hunger. "Now your second toy is done for. Can you survive me? It's over now. I'll kill you, and then I'll end the resistance, piece by piece." Jason exhaled, flat and bored. He looked down at Maharaga, at the scattered particles now resting in the hollow of his palm. "Are you done now? Is it fully ready?" He asked the hovering pieces without a change in tone. "I'm getting bored of his threats, honestly." Maharaga said nothing. The Shikigami dissolved into fine motes and settled into Jason's hand like iron dust. Jason's smile was small and cold as he turned to face the ruined figure of Superman. "I lied," he said, slow and deliberate. "The truth is, back then Maharaga hadn't adapted to you. Kryptonite? I'd already acquired that long before, in my world. Maharaga produces the ultimate weakness. Not some radiation that sometimes makes you sick, no. Not a stronger Kryptonian. Not even magic that confuses you." He watched Superman strain to breathe, watched the last of the Man of Steel's flare of dignity wobble like a candle in a wind tunnel. "A Kryptonian's true weakness," Jason said, eyes hard, "is his own homeland." Jason closed his eyes. He made the sign of his domain with slow, absolute precision. Domain expansion, malevolent red shrine. The world folded. Darkness swallowed the plaza. An endless pool of black water opened beneath their feet, reflective and cold. In the center rose a single lacquered shrine, its torii bleeding into a red sky. The shrine sat like a wound. Jason stood on its steps, unmoving, a calm god in a place intended for death. Superman's teeth ground. "Another trick," he rasped. "No," Jason replied quietly. "This is the final piece of the puzzle. In here, you die. Simple as that." He opened his palm. The particles of Maharaga coalesced, glinting like a constellation. The dark sky above ruptured where the shrine's eaves met the void and a massive red sun swelled into being, filling the dome of the domain with a hate-cold light. "It is the sun of your homeland," Jason said. The effect was immediate and absolute. Power drained from Superman like blood from a severed vein. Strength that had folded continents and survived nuclear hells, gone. His limbs felt foreign, slow. Muscles trembled. Breath shortened. Panic flared, then sank into hollow, animal acceptance as realization crawled through him. There was no escaping this. No flight. No heat vision. No last-minute miracle. He was weaker than any human standing there. Jason watched him sag, and pity, if it could be called that, passed over his mouth. "I feel bad for you," he said. "You were once a great man. Now you're just a villain to be finished. Goodbye." Without mercy, without flourish, Jason sent a cascade of slashes toward the fallen god. The cuts came like language, clean, systematic, endless. Flesh and skin were reduced to a scatter of motion, sliced into pieces until there was nothing left to stand. Jason made sure of one small, cruel detail: Superman's head remained whole, untouched, a silent crown on the ruin of his body. Superman could not scream. He could not bargain. He could not even protest. The domain had stolen the last of his pride and his power. He accepted what came with the weary, terrible knowledge of a man whose world had been his prison and his doom. The battlefield had descended into chaos. Wonder Woman's golden lasso flashed as it coiled around Catwoman's waist, the Amazon pulling with brutal force before slamming her into a marble wall, cracks spidering out from the impact. She turned sharply, eyes blazing, and leapt toward Batman, who barely rolled aside in time. From his belt, he released a cluster of gas pellets, shrouding the area in thick smoke. But Diana didn't even slow down. With a roar, she clashed her bracelets together, boom. The resulting shockwave shattered the smog and sent debris flying, revealing Batman bracing behind his cape. She was about to charge again when something fell from the heavens, a faint whistling sound, a shadow. Then, impact. The ground shook. Dust rose. And when it cleared, something round rolled to Diana's feet. Her breath caught. The world froze. It was a head, his head. "What?" she whispered, voice trembling. The head of Superman, the tyrant of Earth, lay lifeless in the dirt. His eyes, once burning with divine wrath, were dull now, empty. Everyone followed her gaze upward. There, suspended against the dim sky, Jason floated, crimson aura burning around him, cloak fluttering in the wind, eyes looking down upon them all with calm authority. "No!" Diana's scream tore through the battlefield, shaking the hearts of every soldier and god alike. The world's strongest man was dead. Every eye turned toward her, then toward Jason. He spoke with cold finality, his voice carrying like a divine decree. "Everyone here has two choices: surrender, or die like him. You." Wonder Woman's rage consumed her reason, tears burning her cheeks. "Do you have any idea what you've done, you monster?" She turned, shouting to the regime's soldiers. "All of you. Stop what you're doing and attack him. Now." Her fury was contagious. Black Adam's lightning sparked in the air, Sinestro's ring glowed with malevolent yellow, and Captain Atom's core began to pulse dangerously. The air trembled with power as they all ascended, encircling Jason in midair. From below, Batman yelled, voice raw with desperation. "Diana, no. Don't." But his words came too late. Jason only sighed, his tone more disappointed than angry. "You should have listened to him." His fingers traced a symbol in the air, an invisible circle that flared red. Domain expansion, malevolent shrine. The world changed. Dark water stretched infinitely beneath them. The sky dimmed into an oppressive void. And in the center of it all stood Jason, beside his shrine of blood-red stone. Wonder Woman's eyes widened. "What is this?" The answer came not in words, but in slaughter. The domain pulsed. 1,000 unseen blades screamed through the air. In a single instant, the battlefield became a storm of blood and dismembered limbs. Sinestro's ring shattered. Black Adam's lightning was severed mid-burst. Captain Atom didn't even have time to detonate before his body was carved apart. When the domain finally dissipated, silence fell. Bodies, no, pieces, rained from the sky. Heads. Arms. Blood. It all hit the ground like a morbid downpour. Batman stood motionless amid the carnage. His eyes fell upon something rolling toward his feet. Diana's head. He stared at it in silence, his cape billowing in the crimson wind. Was this victory? Or was it the death of everything he had ever fought for? He didn't know. The aftermath was swift and merciless. The regime crumbled within days. Those who still clung to Superman's fallen empire were hunted, disarmed, and tried before the world they once ruled. The Flash, broken by guilt, didn't even resist. He surrendered quietly, whispering apologies that no one wanted to hear. Raven, too, remained silent, eyes empty as she accepted her cell and the long years of penance that awaited her. The rest, those too arrogant to submit, were captured by Jason's hand, their once feared names now reduced to court headlines and prison numbers. Across the globe, Superman's statues were torn down, one by one. Monuments to his power crumbled beneath the hammers of the free, and for the first time in 2 years, the world began to breathe again. The skies above Metropolis were no longer under his watchful gaze, the people could finally walk without fear. Yet amid the celebrations, one man couldn't smile. Batman stood on the roof of Wayne Tower, staring into the distance. The city lights reflected off his cowl, but his eyes were dim, haunted. He had won. The regime was gone. Humanity was free. But the cost? Too high. Jason's arrival had been both a salvation and a curse. Deep down, Bruce knew he had no choice. Superman was too strong, too far gone. But still, the guilt gnawed at him like rust on iron. Had he really done the right thing? Or had he simply chosen the easiest path? The path of killing? He told himself he could have saved them. That somewhere, somehow, there might have been another way. Jason never shared that sentiment. He stood at the edge of a shattered hall of justice, hands in his pockets, gazing at the ruins of gods. He felt no regret, only satisfaction. Every fallen hero, every fight, and every death had fed his growth. His energy thrummed like wildfire beneath his skin. He could feel it, the power, the strength, the evolution. The very air bent slightly around him now. Mr. Terrific approached, his tone formal yet sincere. "I'd like to thank you for helping us, and for saving our world," he said, extending a hand. Jason clasped it firmly. "No problem. It was nice to let loose a bit," he replied with a half-smirk. "But damn, your world's insane. I never thought I'd see heroes split down the middle like that. Guess I better make sure that doesn't happen in mine." Mr. Terrific chuckled faintly, then handed him a small device, sleek and metallic, with glowing blue lines running across its frame. "Take this. If you ever need us, don't hesitate. We'll answer the call, just like you did for us." Jason glanced at it, then back at him, a rare flicker of genuine appreciation crossing his face. "Damn. Thanks. I'll remember that." He turned toward the dimensional portal, a swirling gate of energy linking two realities. The light reflected off his grin, sharp and unbothered. Time to go home. He stepped through. When Jason opened his eyes again, he was standing in Metropolis Square, his metropolis. The sun shone, the people bustled, and the air felt familiar. But something caught his eye immediately, the massive digital billboard overhead. In glaring bold letters, it read, "Jason Anderson is a liar and a fraud." He stared at it for a moment, expression blank. Then his brow twitched, and he muttered under his breath. "For hell's sake. I was gone for, what, a month? Not even." Jason pinched the bridge of his nose, glaring at the holographic headlines swirling in the air. His face was plastered on every intergalactic newsfeed with captions like, "Cowardly Earthling refuses cosmic challenge," and "False warlord declines honor of the arena." He muttered, voice low and dripping with disbelief. "So you're telling me a bunch of freaking aliens showed up here, couldn't find me, and what? Decided to slander me across the damn galaxy?" Wonder Woman crossed her arms, expression calm but her lips twitching in amusement. "Well, yeah, that's the gist of it. Jason turned toward her sharply. You've got to be kidding me. Diana raised an eyebrow. They called it the Cosmic Arena Tournament. Apparently, it's a very old, very famous event. Mongol used to compete in it. Wagering Warworld itself, and he won 9 times consecutively. Now that he's dead, and you hold the Warworld, they're saying you're obligated to fight in his place. Jason stared at her blankly. Then blinked. That is incredibly stupid. And people from our world actually believe this crap. From the couch, Harley piped up with a grin, twirling her bat. Oh, Pudden, media people are like flies to crap, one headline and they start buzzin'. What did you expect? Jason groaned. Unbelievable. Diana exhaled softly. I say we ignore it and let it pass. It's not exactly a priority right now. Jason leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. All right. Anything else I should know about before I decide to burn something? Harley raised her hand, cheerful as always. Ooh, let me see. Giant monster showed up downtown, we kicked its ass. Livewire got into a fight with Black Canary again, something about whose tits were better. Diana's eyes widened in alarm. Harley. Oh. And I caught Diana masturbating to your pic. Diana's hand was immediately over Harley's mouth, cheeks redder than her costume. That never happened. Ignore her. The only major event worth mentioning was Joker breaking out of Arkham. That's it. Jason raised an eyebrow, unimpressed. I'm gonna ignore that last part from Harley. So basically, nothing major. Diana exhaled in relief. Correct. Jason stood up, cracking his neck with a smirk. Good. Then pack up. You're coming with me. Diana blinked. Wait, what? You're actually going to the tournament? Jason's grin widened, sharp and dangerous. Oh, I'm not going there to compete. I'm going to send them a message. And I'll need you with me. Harley jumped up instantly, her eyes sparkling. Wait. I want to come too. Jason gave her a long look as she deployed her deadliest weapon, the puppy eyes. He sighed in defeat. Damn it. Why not? Diana frowned slightly. When do we leave? Jason stretched, the faint aura of cursed energy flickering around him like heat waves. Now. The ship cut a silent path through the star-dusted void, its course locked and systems humming on autopilot. With the helm secured, Diana found Jason in the lounge, the soft glow of starlight from the viewport illuminating the amber liquid in his glass. The rich, peaty scent of fine whiskey filled the space. Harley, they both knew, was deep in a regenerative sleep cycle within the medpod chamber, leaving them in a rare pocket of privacy. Diana settled into the plush seat opposite him, the material sighing softly. She poured a measure of the same whiskey into a crystal tumbler, the clink of the decanter a punctuation in the quiet. So, how did it go in the other world? She asked, her tone a blend of professional curiosity and something more personal. Jason swirled the liquor in his glass, watching the legs trail down the crystal. Well, about as much as I expected, a truly messed up world. He took a measured sip, the warmth of familiar comfort. You were a bitch in it, to be honest. I actually ended up killing you, sorry, he said with a dark, humorless smirk, I ended up fighting that world's Superman. Killed him, of course. And ended up culling a significant portion of their so-called heroes. Diana's glass paused halfway to her lips, her eyes widening a fraction. Wow. I didn't know the mission parameters required that level of escalation. Don't waste your sympathy on them, Diana, Jason said, his voice dropping, becoming flinty. When I saw what they had done, I lost it. Their Superman killed Billy. Shazam. He freaking lasered the kid's eyes out. And it wasn't just an execution, it was a flex for him. Had that shit broadcasting on every screen across the planet. A grimace of genuine disgust twisted Diana's features. Oh. That is, indeed evil. I hope I wasn't as troublesome. I didn't realize the meat of that world was complicit. Don't take it to heart, Jason stated, his gaze meeting hers, firm and direct. She may have worn your face, but you and she are fundamentally different organisms. If it makes you feel any better. He let the sentence hang for a moment, his eyes giving her a slow, appreciative once-over. I like you way, way more. And you're far more beautiful. A faint, pleased blush touched her cheeks. Thanks. I appreciate that. So. She began, a new, more vulnerable tension entering her posture. Before she could formulate her thought, Jason turned fully to face her, a knowing, almost imperceptible smile playing on his lips. Jerking off on my desk. Seriously? The blush on Diana's face deepened to a spectacular crimson. She lowered her head, a rare display of utter mortification. It's been. She stammered, the mighty Amazon warrior reduced to a flustered mess. I'm not offended, he said, his tone low and even, devoid of judgment but full of implication. I just find it curious you chose solitary gratification over coming to me. I needed a good smash too, you know. What? I'm way older, she managed, the protest sounding weak even to her own ears. Like, by tens of years. Oh, shut up, he dismissed with a soft, commanding chuckle. We both know neither of us gives a damn about a number. A beautiful woman is a beautiful woman. The air in the lounge grew thick, charged with a potent, unspoken promise. Diana's eyes lifted to his, and the professional composure melted away, replaced by a raw, hungry look that seemed to peel away his layers, her gaze practically undressing him where he sat. The moment, however, was shattered by the gratingly cheerful voice that echoed from the corridor. Hey! Are we there yet? Harley bounded into the lounge, gloriously, unabashedly nude, her skin glowing under the ship's lights. She paid the intense atmosphere no mind, her hands on her hips. Jason sighed, the spell broken. He rose from his seat, his expression a mixture of annoyance and resignation. We'll continue this talk later. I think we're close now. He then turned to Harley, and with a sharp, practiced motion, delivered a stinging slap to her exposed rear, the sound cracking through the room. She let out a theatrical, exaggerated moan. Yes, Daddy. Get dressed, you idiot, he finished, though a trace of fond exasperation was evident in his command. Ladies and gentlemen, shouted the booming voice of the announcer, his four jaws flapping in excitement. We've got excellent news. The coward of Earth has finally showed up. And he's here to supposedly win the tournament. Ha 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 ha. The crowd erupted in laughter, an ocean of alien warriors, beasts, and mercenaries roaring with mockery across the colossal Colosseum of Rimber, a war-hungry planet that thrived on blood sports and violence. Floating banners shimmered with the sigil of Emperor Jorvantal, the grotesque ruler whose massive form sat upon the royal balcony. His chin tentacles squirmed as he laughed, his voice deep and wet. Those earthlings have no idea what they've signed up for, the announcer continued, raising his clawed hands to the sky. We'll rip his head off and offer it to Emperor Jorvantal, may he reign forever. Forever, bellowed the crowd in unison. The Emperor's laughter filled the air, thick, wheezing, satisfied, until the sky above the arena split open. A sonic boom followed, shaking the Colosseum's foundations as three figures descended through the clouds. The first landed like a meteor. Dust and wind exploded outward from the crater he created, Jason. Behind him, landing with fluid grace, came Diana and Harley Quinn. Jason brushed the dust off his coat, his glowing eyes cutting through the haze. Hello everyone, he said coolly, the foolish earthling is here. The crowd laughed even harder. Ahaha. Look who's finally here. What an entrance, the announcer cackled, slapping his knee. But that won't save you. The tournament will begin soon, everyone. Brackets will be announced in 10 minutes. Jason tilted his head, sighed, and said calmly, too bad. I'm not here for a tournament. He raised his sword. I'm here to kill you all. For a brief moment, there was silence. Then, laughter again. Deafening. Mocking. Until. Schlick. The announcer's head rolled across the stage, landing with a wet thud at the Emperor's feet. The laughter stopped. Why, you bastard, the Emperor roared, flailing his stubby arms. Attack him. All of you. The Colosseum erupted into chaos. Fighters from dozens of worlds leapt from the stands, charging toward Jason, Harley, and Diana. Harley was the first to move, swinging her mallet in a wide arc that crushed two warriors into paste. Ha! I missed this, she laughed, blood splattering across her face as she twirled midair and slammed the hammer into another's spine. Diana met a squad of heavily armed mercs head-on, deflecting plasma bolts with her bracers before her lasso shot out, snaring one and yanking him into the air. She swung him like a weapon, smashing two others before pulling her sword free and decapitating a fourth. The blood hit the sands like red rain. Jason? He didn't rush. He walked. Each guard that approached was split apart with surgical precision, clean, instant, effortless. His steps echoed louder than the screams. He moved toward the VIP balcony, toward Jorvental, whose massive form trembled. Bak-al! Bak-al! Come out, you fool, screamed the Emperor. From the corridor behind the throne, a mountain of a creature appeared, green skin rippling with muscle, tentacles writhing under a helmet of bone. The crowd gasped. This is Bak-al. Our answer to Mongol. You will die here, human, shouted the Emperor triumphantly. Jason didn't even look at him. He simply kept walking. Bak-al took a single step forward. Then froze. A thin red line glowed across his torso. The next instant, SHHKK, his entire upper body slid off, hitting the ground with a wet smack. Silence. Jason stepped past the corpse, his blade dripping crimson. Bak-al. Bak-al. Kill him. You fool, screamed Jorvental, panic shaking his voice. Jason reached him. The Emperor tried to crawl backward, his blubbery mass wriggling helplessly. Jason stepped onto his stomach, then up to his chest, until his boot pressed firmly against the alien's face. So what now? Jason said quietly. I'm a coward, huh? Earthlings are weak? You wanted to claim my property? Tell me, what do you take me for? Please. A misunderstanding, sobbed the Emperor. Diplomacy. It was only a promotion, no insult intended. We meant nothing, please. Jason looked back. Harley was dancing through corpses, laughing and humming to herself, her mallet soaked. Diana had 3 soldiers impaled on her sword, tossing them aside like refuse. She smiled faintly, battle-drunk, remembering the hunts of her youth on Themyscira. Jason turned back to the Emperor, his grin cold and joyless. You say you did nothing wrong? Well, me too. He lifted his boot slightly, just enough for the Emperor to look up in horror. All of this is just your punishment. Jason pressed down hard. Crunch. The Emperor's skull burst under his heel. Jason stepped off, brushing dust from his shoulder as he looked toward a hovering drone nearby, recording everything. He smiled at it just before slashing it in half. This is what Earth has. He said. Me. The camera's feed cut with static, the last image burned into the galaxy's data streams, Jason standing over a mountain of corpses, Diana and Harley behind him, blood painting the sands of Rimber. His final words echoed through every receiver tuned to the broadcast. Come when you're ready to die. Dark side. Before the final body had even cooled, a crimson-streaked blur shot across the battlefield. Harley, her hair a mess and her suit torn in a dozen places, launched herself at Jason with the force of a small meteor. He grunted as she impacted, her arms and legs wrapping around him in a vice-like grip. Daddy, she cheered, her voice a gleeful shriek that cut through the post-fight silence. That was super duper fun. Ha ha ha. Jason let out a long, weary sigh, the tension slowly bleeding from his own coiled shoulders. For once, he decided not to chastise her chaotic exuberance. A rare, almost imperceptible smile touched his lips. Yes, he rumbled, his voice a low contrast to her exuberance. It was fun. Emboldened by his compliance, Harley saw an opening and seized it with her typical lack of hesitation. She leaned in, closing the remaining distance to press her lips firmly against his. It wasn't a gentle kiss. It was acclaiming, messy with grime and adrenaline. After a heartbeat of surprise, Jason responded in kind, his own kiss a deliberate, conceding pressure. He was meeting her chaos with controlled acceptance. When she broke away, sliding down his body to land lightly on her feet, her expression was one of triumphant, giddy shock. She clasped her hands behind her back, rocking on her heels. "That was the first time you let me in," she breathed, her voice suddenly small, the manic energy replaced with genuine awe. Jason's gaze was unreadable, but his tone was dry and pragmatic. "Meh. Figured why not?" He reached out, a single, blood-stained finger brushing a strand of hair from her cheek. "You're cute. And you've been loyal. Obedient. So, what the hell?" From the periphery, a witness observed the entire exchange. Diana, a faint, warm blush colored her cheeks, and the mature, composed demeanor she presented to the world seemed to have melted away, leaving a woman captivated by the raw, unfiltered dynamic before her. Jason's senses, always attuned to his surroundings, didn't miss her. Releasing Harley, he turned and strode toward Diana. There was no hesitation in his movement. He closed the distance, one hand settling firmly on the curve of her armored waist, pulling her against him. He didn't ask. He simply acted, lowering his head to capture her lips in a searing kiss. Any protest Diana might have summoned died before it was born. A soft, surprised sound escaped her throat before she yielded completely, her hands coming up to grasp his shoulders. Her response was not one of surprised acceptance, but of unleashed, equal passion. She met his intensity with her own, a centuries-old fire igniting in the space between them. It was a deeper, more consuming kiss than the one he'd shared with Harley. Speaking of a different kind of understanding. As they parted, breathless, Harley bounced over, slotting herself between them and wrapping an arm around each of their waists. "Hey," she chirped, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "We took 8 hours to get here, right? So, 8 hours back? Alone. All three of us. Alone." She leaned in, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial, sultry whisper. "And horny. Shall we have some fun, then?" Jason looked from Diana's flushed, willing face to Harley's eager one. The concept of resistance seemed like a distant, tedious memory. A low, conceding chuckle escaped him. "Damn it. Why not?" he stated, the decision final. "It's been a while." With that, the trio, a tangle of blood-stained armor, chaotic energy, and divine grace, turned as one, their paths set not for a debrief, but for the private confines of their ship, where a different, more pleasurable kind of passion awaited. The fragile space for words vanished, consumed by a heat that had been building since the battle's end. Jason's mouth found Diana's in a searing kiss, all practiced control and raw need. His hands, slick with the sweat of recent combat, moved to the clasps of her battle-worn attire. With efficient tugs, the garments gave way, pooling at her feet to reveal the powerful, sculpted lines of her body, her breasts firm and proud. His palms cupped their weight, a reverent groan rumbling in his chest, but the moment was stolen. Harley, a flash of impatience and pale skin, spun him to face her. Her kiss was a different kind of fire, all playful, biting urgency. As her mouth claimed his, her fingers worked swiftly at the fastenings of his jacket, pushing it from his broad shoulders. She wasn't alone. Diana, now free of her own clothes, moved behind him, her strong, sure hands assisting, gliding his shirt up and over his head. In mere seconds, his torso was bare, the hard planes of his chest and abdomen on full display. A low, breathless laugh escaped Jason. I feel like I'm being attacked here. That's what you get for being so damn sexy. Harley chirped, her voice a mix of glee and hunger. With a surprising show of strength, she pushed him backward onto the waiting bed. He landed with a soft bounce, but there was no time to settle. Diana was on him in an instant, straddling his hips and capturing his lips once more in a deep, claiming kiss as Harley's hands made quick work of his belt and pants, tugging them down his powerful legs. Finally, her fingers hooked into the waistband of his boxers. She pulled them down and her blue eyes widened, a slow, appreciative smirk spreading across her painted lips. She let out a low, impressed whistle. Wow. Okay. Yeah, she breathed, her gaze flicking to Diana. This one could definitely break a goddess. There was no need for the slow art of foreplay. The adrenaline from their fight and the simmering passion between them had already done the work, leaving them all slick with anticipation. Diana needed no further invitation. Holding his gaze, she positioned herself above him and, with a single, fluid, powerful motion, sheathed him completely inside her. A sharp, gratified gasp tore from her throat. Yes, she moaned, her head tipping back. I needed this. Harley, watching with darkening eyes, leaned in to kiss Jason's shoulder. Don't take too long, Amazon, she purred, her hand tracing a path up Diana's thigh. I need a taste of that, too. And so the three of them became a tangle of limbs and shared pleasure, a perfect, sweaty circuit of desire. The passion did not wane, it ebbed and flowed, a relentless tide that lasted for the entire 8-hour journey back to Earth. It was a night of such intense, unbridled connection that when the ship finally breached the atmosphere, it found both Diana and Harley utterly spent, collapsed in a sated, dreamless sleep. In the dim glow of the ship's lounge, Jason was already at the viewport, a half-filled glass in his hand. The stardusted void spun slowly beyond the transparisteel. Diana moved to him, her steps silent on the deck. She let her hand rest on his arm, leaning in to press a soft, lingering kiss to his lips before settling into the seat beside him. A corner of Jason's mouth quirked up, his eyes holding a familiar, knowing light. Good morning, Princess. Good morning, Jason, Diana replied, the title feeling more intimate than formal. A faint, uncharacteristic blush heated her cheeks, a testament to the passions that had stripped away her usual regal composure. She took a steadying breath. So, She began, her words faltering. Jason's voice was a low, gentle rumble. You had a good time? The blush deepened. Yeah. She admitted, the single word heavy with understatement. Look, I'm not usually. Well, I don't typically vocalize like that. Relax, he interjected, his tone soothing yet firm. It's all right. I don't mind. In fact, I rather enjoyed it. And it's not like anyone could hear you moan in the vacuum of space, you know. Diana let out a sigh, the tension in her shoulders easing slightly. You're right. Still, my feelings are a bit conflicted, you know. Why? Jason asked, taking a sip from his glass. It's you, me, and Harley. All three of us. She paused, gathering her thoughts. It felt good. Honestly, no, I'm lying. That was probably the most profound pleasure I have ever experienced. I never thought a mortal could make a daughter of Olympus feel so thoroughly unraveled. But she took a deliberate drink, the cool liquid a contrast to her heated thoughts. I just feel that by sharing the experience, I may have forfeited any singular, romantic claim to you. Jason raised an eyebrow, a flicker of amusement in his gaze. And why would you think that? Well, Harley. You love her, right? Diana asked, her voice soft. Of course, I do, Jason stated without hesitation. He then added, his voice dropping to an intimate timbre, that doesn't mean I don't love you, too. Diana's breath hitched. So, what? You love us both? I suppose I shouldn't be shocked, my father was such a man. But I believed it impossible for a mortal, given your kind's proclivity for monogamy. Jason's smile was sharp, confident. Well, I'm not like most mortals, am I? Does that mean, she questioned, hope and wariness warring within her. Yes, Diana. It means I love you, and I love Harley, and I will likely love other remarkable women who find their way to my side, he stated, his candor both disarming and thrilling. Isn't that unfair? To us? She challenged, her Amazonian spirit rising to the surface. Yes, he conceded without a hint of shame. It is. Profoundly unfair. I will demand your complete and utter loyalty, while my own will be divided. I see, Diana said, processing his words. So, you wish for me, for Harley, for any other, to be content with sharing you, while we have only you in return? Indeed. Though, I believe I provided sufficient, individual attention yesterday, did I not? He asked, the joke laced with a thread of serious inquiry. A shiver ran down her spine. Oh, no. You were more than sufficient. To be honest, there were moments I feared you might break me. My instincts nearly took over, I almost retaliated purely from the overwhelming sensation. It's just, you're so casual about this paradigm. It's simple, Diana, Jason said, his gaze holding hers. A man of my stature attracts, and deserves, a constellation of exceptional women. The only question that remains is, are you okay with that? Diana looked into the depths of space, then back at him, finding an unexpected truth in her heart. Honestly, yes, I am. For some reason, to my divine blood, it feels natural. She stood, letting the sheet pool around her feet, standing before him in her full, magnificent glory. Jason Anderson, she declared, her voice clear and resonant. I love you. A genuine, triumphant smile spread across Jason's face. Well, I love you too, Princess Diana of Themyscira. A radiant smile broke across her features. Okay. That didn't feel bad. It was a good feeling. I'm happy. Yes. Oh, that's so sweet. Harley's voice chimed in from the doorway. She emerged from the berth, gloriously nude and unconcerned, her skin still flushed from sleep and recent memory. She padded over to them and settled herself comfortably onto Jason's lap, wrapping her arms around his neck. I don't need to agree to anything, she purred, leaning in to press a soft kiss to the side of his neck. I'm already yours. I don't care how many women surround you, my love. I'll always be right here at your side. Jason's hand settled on Harley's waist, his gaze encompassing both women. All right. I guess this clears things up. At their concurrent nods, he gave a final, commanding smile. Good. Then why don't you two magnificent beings put on some clothes, eh? We've arrived home. Days drifted by after the Rimber massacre, days of uneasy calm beneath the shadow of something far greater. The shockwaves of Jason's actions had echoed through the stars. Planets that once mocked Earth now whispered its name with trembling reverence. Empires that once sought to conquer it began to reconsider, and the great powers of the cosmos watched silently, each waiting for the inevitable storm that was to come. For it was no longer a matter of if, but when. The war between Apocalypse and Earth was coming. Apocalypse, the world forged in fire and shadow, ruled by a god whose very name crushed lesser wills, Darkseid. His dominion stretched across countless systems, his armies unending, his will unbending. For millennia, he had waged war upon New Genesis, the eternal rival whose light stood against his darkness. That conflict had raged for over 4,000 years, its scars burned into the stars themselves. It was the only thing that kept his gaze from consuming the rest of existence. But even war has seasons. And for the first time in centuries, the infernal ruler stirred anew. Inside his obsidian throne hall, the air trembled with raw cosmic power. Flames from the molten pits of Apocalypse licked the edges of the chamber as Desaad, twisted and pale, approached his master with a grin that promised wicked revelations. My lord. Desaad began, bowing low, his voice crawling across the stones. Granny has sent word. Word of a discovery most intriguing. It may hold the key to our Parademon evolutions, the completion of our Paradoom initiative. With it, the war could end in our favor sooner than expected. From the great throne, Darkseid's crimson eyes burned with terrible curiosity. Then speak, Desaad. Desaad's grin widened. It seems remnants of the Doomsday Project have been uncovered. A fragment of Luther's lost archives survived, files buried deep on Earth. If recovered, they could allow us to perfect our paradooms. Imagine it, my lord. Armies of parademons with Doomsday's regenerative might, capable of tearing through gods and men alike. Darkseid leaned forward, the shadows deepening around him. And with that, both New Genesis and Earth would crumble before me. Then, finally, the anti-life equation shall be mine. A thin smile touched his lips, cold, cruel, inevitable. Meanwhile, on Earth, the story was already beginning to unfold. Jason stood amidst the ruins of a shattered laboratory, once sterile and silent, now nothing but twisted steel and flickering lights. The air still smelled of ozone and blood. Every monitor was cracked, and every file was burned. The symbol stamped on the wall told the whole story, a faded Cadmus insignia. Do we have anything? Jason's voice was low, even, his eyes scanning through debris. Not much, answered Black Canary, crouching by a melted data terminal. This whole place. It was funded under the table by Lex Luthor himself. Even after his death, someone kept it running, someone with deep pockets and powerful connections. Whoever that was, they covered their tracks perfectly. From the far end of the lab, Zatanna approached, her cloak trailing through the ash. She knelt, drawing symbols in the dust, her lips whispering a reversal spell. The air shimmered briefly, then shattered like glass. She sighed. It's no use. This place was warded by a powerful mage. Stronger than me, maybe even Constantine. Whatever they didn't burn, they hid. Jason exhaled, his patience thin. Then we're blind. Great. But tell me, why here? Of all places, why would the Joker hit this lab? I thought he'd be busy playing his usual games with Batman. Zatanna's gaze hardened. It's because of you. Jason turned to her, brow raised. The Joker knows Batman won't kill him, but you will, she said plainly. He's not reckless. Every move he makes has purpose, even when it looks insane. I think he's doing something to get rid of you, Jason. Something bigger. Jason's jaw tightened. If he's planning something, we'll deal with it when it shows up. For now, I'd rather get Batman on this. He's the best investigator we've got, and this kind of setup, Cadmus, secret funding, magic wards, it reeks of his territory. Black Canary folded her arms. Good luck with that. He's been off-grid since the Justice League split. Cut off all contact with the League, even Alfred's messages bounce. Then maybe Barry, suggested Zatanna. If anyone can reach him, it's the Flash. They're close, but convincing Barry to help you. She trailed off with a wry look. Jason pinched the bridge of his nose and muttered, great. The one time I actually want to do this the old-fashioned way. He looked around once more at the broken lab, the silent machines, the faint hum of something still alive beneath the wreckage. His instincts whispered that this wasn't over. Keep searching, he ordered quietly. Whatever Cadmus was doing here, and whoever the Joker's working with, it's tied to something a hell of a lot worse than we think. Ugh, why is she taking so long to reply? Ugh. It was so much fun. Me. Batman. Gotham. Just us and our little games. Nostalgia is a knife. Now I have to waste my time on Jason Anderson. Bomb his house, maybe, just a little laugh toxin mixed in, real classy. That would get him. No, would only aggravate him. Still, hilarious. Oh, maybe I should do it. Joker muttered to himself as he paced the cracked concrete of the abandoned hangar, the sound of his shoes a nervous metronome. He stopped, grinned like a child with a secret, and dug theatrically into his jacket. A heavy footfall cut the air. The hangar door groaned open. A tall woman with a shock of white hair stepped in, soldiers filing behind her like obedient punctuation. So you're here." The old woman drawled. "Oh. Granny goodness." Joker crowed, throwing his arms wide with ridiculous affection. "A pleasure. Big fan of your lovely, worthless work." He spun, flourished, and revealed a ridiculous mountain of folders stacked like school projects pulled from Cadmus. "These little love notes from the science fair? All yours. And this," he said, drawing a tiny vial of dark, gleaming blood from his inner pocket, "is the blood of none other than the big blue boy himself. Ha! Superman." He rolled the vial across his knuckles, eyes bright with a child's glee. "Once Darkseid deals with Jason Anderson, hand him over, and you get this, and then, oh then, Batsy and I? We'll pick up where we left off." Granny Goodness's eyes pinched into thin lines. "Good. Finally, something useful." Her finger found a hidden button and the floor answered. A portal yawned open beneath Joker's feet. In an instant he and his pile of files vanished through the rip. He hit air and looked up into a face like an eclipse, Darkseid. For a moment the world narrowed to cold metal and an absolute, terrible presence. Joker fumbled for the vial but Steppenwolf's armored boot locked his wrist. With a swift, brutal motion the vial was lifted free and presented to Darkseid. "My lord, the vial," Steppenwolf intoned. "You cheating bastards." Joker shrieked, lunging in words if not in body. "How dare you, double-cross me? I did a lot of work to get that." "Well, steal it, but still, how dare you?" Steppenwolf's hand closed on Joker's throat and raised him like a puppet. "You dare shout at our lord?" Steppenwolf rumbled, fingers tightening. "Leave him," Darkseid said, voice flat as a falling slab, and passed the vial to Dacid. "Why, my lord?" Steppenwolf demanded. "This pathetic human does not deserve to live." "He has his use," Darkseid replied. "Only he can deal with Batman. So let him." "Ha! Listen to your master, you stupid demon-looking fool." Joker mocked through clenched teeth, his grin a practiced show even as darkness clouded his vision. Steppenwolf's fist answered, and the world went black. "He'll do nicely for the dungeon," Steppenwolf said, hauling Joker away. And so, Darkseid had what he wanted, the files and the blood. The raw pieces to forge another doomsday. Joker's laughter, cut and ragged, echoed down the corridor as they dragged him off. It was a sound both frightening and, in its own way, unapologetically delighted, because if there was one thing the Clown Prince loved more than chaos, it was the promise that the game was far from over. Inside his cell, Joker endured days that scraped at his edges, bland, awful food, silence so thick it felt like a joke without a punchline. No inmates to rile, no audience to admire his antics. For a while he stared straight into the black and thought, this is it. I'm done. Then he laughed, because of course, he already was. The guards were mute parademons, hulking, expressionless automatons who delivered meals and retreated without a single word. Every visit was the same. Once, drunk on a sudden manic idea, Joker lunged at one. 4 of them answered within heartbeats, and they taught him precisely how fragile a human fist can be. He woke bruised and delirious, and oddly satisfied. Because when he crawled back to the slab of his bed, something cold and bright had been left by his pillow. A key. Not for the cell, a useless trinket in that context, and yet a key nonetheless, glittering proof that opportunity sometimes arrives in the form of scraped metal and stolen hope. Using the sort of meticulous, crooked patience only he could call sanity, Joker picked the lock, eased open the door, and slipped into the belly of Apocalypse. The parademons were stunningly stupid. None saw him as a threat that warranted constant attention, they treated him like a persistent fly. His path to the exit was absurdly easy. One lone parademon blocked the corridor. Joker snapped off a length of metal from his prison bed, a jagged, pleating thing. Vaulted up, landed on the creature's back, and drove the bar into its neck with a river of lunacy grin. The parademon slumped. For half a breath, silence. Then alarms shredded the air. "Oh, crap," Joker said, and the whole planet promptly took notice. Boots and wings thundered, legions of parademons lurched and swarmed. Joker melted into the infrastructure, curling into maintenance ducts and crawling between walls where cables breathed like sleeping snakes. At first he assumed they were power conduits or piping, but meaning slipped away when something exploded through plaster and hauled him out. "You maggot of a human, you dare escape?" Steppenwolf boomed, a hand like a wrecking hook closing around Joker's waist with the intent to crush. "Oh, hi, demon boy," Joker chirped, flailing his arms with ridiculous cheer. "I just wanted some fresh air, that's all. Nothing serious. Care to let me go? If not for my lord, I would have crushed you already." Steppenwolf tightened his grip. "A loyal puppy. Here, have a treat." Joker pressed the little trick flower he'd hidden against his chest. It squealed like a toy and spat a thin spray of acid-scented toxin into Steppenwolf's eyes. The monster roared, staggered, and in that moment, Joker slipped from his grasp and bolted. "Damn you!" Steppenwolf bellowed, axe drawn. Joker ran blind, guided by instinct and that delicious, idiotic faith that chaos favors the nimble. Beams sliced past him. Parademons swarmed and fired. Fate, or some perverse comedy writer, steered him into a restricted wing, a lab of glass and hum where tubes hummed with bodies and greenish solutions pulsed like captive stars. At the center, a massive chamber held a narrow siphon that led to a tiny vial he recognized in a heartbeat. Superman's blood. "Ah. Gotcha." Joker crowed, and with absolutely reckless, theatrical certainty, he plucked the vial free. Alarms screamed again, louder. In a blink Dacid appeared, motherbox pulsing at his side, eyes narrowing at the sight of the manic human clutching Kryptonian ichor. "You pathetic human. Put that down. Now." Dacid hissed. "NHH. Not dropping this," Joker grinned, brandishing his prize like a child with a stolen lollipop. "And I'm not falling for Granny's teleport trick either. Hand me that box and I'll let you have this later. Maybe. Or," he waggled the vial. "I break it." Dacid hesitated, calculating. Then, like a war drum, footfalls thundered from the hall. Steppenwolf came charging, axe cleaving the air. Steppenwolf. "No! Stop!" Dacid shouted. "You damn human!" Steppenwolf roared as he swung, but the Joker twisted out of the arc. The axe missed, only for a beat. The next instant, iron arms closed on Joker and he was heaved into a vast cauldron of the lab's signature green fluid. "You fool! What have you done? You absolute fool!" Dacid screamed, horrified fury cracking his voice. "I had to." Steppenwolf snapped. "That human would have ruined everything. You had the vial. You've thrown away our chance for paradigms." Dacid shouted. "Our process was calibrated, blood must enter slowly, drop by sacred drop. A torrent like this will eradicate it. You've destroyed our experiment." Dacid lunged, peering into the boiling emerald. He expected only ruin, apocalyptic solution overwhelmed by a single, concentrated human mistake. The Paradoom dream, for now, seemed dead. But Dacid had not accounted for one overlooked variable, human blood. Joker had smashed the vial, his own blood, a chaotic, unmeasured ingredient smeared across the green tide, mixed into the cauldron. The apocalyptic solution recoiled, then reacted. A chemical scream rose from the vat, and something began to coagulate within that churning, sickly sea. Not precisely doomsday. Not yet. Something else. A thing the equations hadn't predicted, an aberration born from reckless human spite and alien soup. It was forming, slow and terrible, pulling itself into being from Joker's ruined gamble. In the lab's sick green light, a new creature took shape, something wrong, and splendidly, dangerously alive. Seconds passed, long, drawn-out, clawing seconds that stretched into eternity. The green cauldron began to churn, bubbles bursting like the laughter of the damned. A single, charred hand rose from the glowing muck, fingers flexing in twitching spasms. Then another followed, nails dark and serrated like razors. Slowly, something pulled itself free of the boiling solution. Joker, or what once had been him, emerged. But the man was gone. In his place stood something entirely different, something born of madness and Kryptonian corruption fused with the vile essence of apocalypse. His skin was ghostly white but stretched tight and sinewy, almost metallic in texture, veins pulsing with streaks of molten green light. His once thin frame was now a grotesque caricature of muscle and bone, tall and towering, his body shaped like a cruel joke told by a god who'd forgotten how to laugh. His hair, long and tangled, shimmered with a faint acidic glow. The grin, that eternal grin, had split wider, carved into his flesh as if sculpted by a butcher's blade, teeth jagged and blackened, glinting in the eerie light. His eyes burned like twin stars of crimson insanity, darting in every direction, alive with chaos. Around his body, scraps of purple fabric still clung stubbornly, the tatters of his former self, but beneath them the new flesh looked armored, like his skin itself had become a weapon. He turned, his burning gaze fixing on Steppenwolf. What the hell is that? Steppenwolf growled, taking a half step back, something close to unease creeping into his voice. This was not supposed to happen, Dacid whispered, horror painting his face pale. The creature smiled, wide, terrible. Then it moved. In a blink, it was upon Steppenwolf, its massive hands slamming into his face with enough force to stagger the new god backward. The sound cracked through the lab like a thunderclap. Steppenwolf roared, swinging his axe in a furious arc, the blade burying itself into the monster's neck, only to stop, metal grinding uselessly against unbreakable flesh. Ah! Joker's voice came out lower, guttural, yet still carrying that familiar sing-song madness. I feel good. His hand shot out, clamping around Steppenwolf's throat. He lifted the armored warrior into the air as if he weighed nothing. The grin widened. I think, he said softly, almost lovingly, I'm going to be having some extreme fun time. The sound that followed was sickening, a crunch, then a wet explosion as Steppenwolf's head burst like fruit. Blood sprayed across the walls, coating Joker's pale face in crimson. He blinked, then dragged his tongue slowly across his cheek, tasting the iron tang with delight. Dacid screamed and unleashed a torrent of apocalyptic energy from his hands, but the creature didn't even flinch. With a lazy swipe, Joker's hand tore through the air, sending Dacid flying across the lab, crashing into a wall hard enough to crater it. The monster looked down, his grin softening into childlike wonder. At his feet lay a mother box, humming faintly. Oh! He cooed, crouching and tracing a claw across its surface. A toy. He pressed the symbol. A vortex of light snapped open beneath him. And in the next instant, he was gone. Alternate title, Absolute Joker. Doomsday. The very name was carved into the world's memory. The day Superman died, truly died, was the day humanity understood what terror meant. The Justice League hadn't been able to stop the monster. Not Batman. Not Wonder Woman. Not the entire might of Earth's heroes combined. Only the Man of Steel, bleeding and broken, had managed to bring the creature down, giving his life in the process. In the aftermath, pretenders rose to claim his mantle. A new Superman made of steel. A young clone blessed with potential but burdened by inexperience. An eradicator with none of Clark's humanity. A cyborg whose intentions curdled into horror. One by one they failed, because none of them carried the true symbol behind the S: hope. Honor. Mercy. People waited. People doubted. People grieved. And then, one day, he returned. Clark Kent, alive, breathing, smiling, saving Metropolis from his own twisted bizarro counterpart as if reclaiming his place was as natural as blinking. The people rejoiced. They believed again. Superman had beaten death. Doomsday had fallen. And the world acknowledged a truth. Superman was undefeated. Which is why, today, the question echoing through the terrified streets of Metropolis was one no one wanted to ask. Why is Superman being beaten to a pulp by the Joker? An hour earlier. Look, man. What you do doesn't sit right with me. Barry crossed his arms, jaw tight. It's horrible. I consider your actions criminal. I don't care if the government allows it or if half the league nods along. Killing is killing. So no, I'm not helping you. Jason exhaled sharply through his nose. Barry, you're being childish right now. This is the Joker we're talking about. Joker. He slammed his palm against the metal table, frustration leaking into every word. A month ago, I was stuck on another Earth where he nuked Metropolis. Nuked it. He killed Superman's wife. His unborn child. And he sparked a civil war in the League that ended with Billy bleeding out on the ground. I get that you like to play hero with your villains, and fine, yours aren't deranged murder machines. His eyes narrowed. But this one is. Barry stared back, unflinching. Jason. I get that you're going to do your thing. And I'm not stopping you. But don't drag me into your crusade, and don't expect me to help with Bruce. I won't be complacent in your murders. He stood. His form blurred. Goodbye, Jason Anderson. In a flash of lightning, he vanished. Jason clicked his tongue. TSK, these superheroes and their bullshit. He scrubbed a hand through his hair in irritation. And then his phone vibrated. Not a normal call. Not even League priority. Pantheon emergency code. Jason's spine straightened instantly. He grabbed his coat, sprinted out of the building, and slammed a fist onto the nearest authorized teleport pad. A pillar of white light swallowed him whole as he teleported straight to Pantheon headquarters. Jason stormed into the Pantheon conference room, boots echoing sharply against the marble floor. What's going on? Diana rose immediately, posture tense, expression carved from worry. Something is happening in Gotham. Batman hasn't responded to any calls. There were multiple explosions across the city. We deployed an initial team, Kara, Raven, Green Arrow, Black Canary, and Harley. But we've received no updates. Someone is interfering with the comm systems across all of Gotham. What we do know is that the explosions were significant, and casualties are already in the dozens. Jason didn't waste a heartbeat. I'm going. He stepped toward Diana, voice low but urgent. I want you with me, but don't. Not yet. Find out who's blocking comms. Eliminate them. Then join us. Before Diana could object, he slammed his fist onto the teleport console. Light swallowed him, and he vanished. Gotham City. Chaos. Blood. Screams. The situation was nothing short of catastrophic. Because the Joker was back. Only this time, he wasn't that Joker. Not the cackling, frail human nightmare Batman had spent decades outsmarting. This Joker had power. Power that burned. Power that destroyed. His return began with a massacre. He tore through an office building like paper, smashing heads against desks, ripping concrete pillars out with his bare hands. By the time Batman arrived, the floors were dripping with blood. But what greeted him wasn't a clown. It was a monster. Batman's gadgets, his explosives, his shock rounds, nothing worked. The creature laughed through it all, shrugging off every attempt to slow him down. Backup arrived in minutes: Supergirl, Green Arrow, Black Canary, Raven, and Harley Quinn. And Harley's arrival was a catastrophic mistake. Joker punched Batman across the debris-strewn street, sending him crashing into a wrecked car. Then he turned, and froze. His eyes widened. His mouth stretched wider than a human mouth should. Jason Anderson's new friends, he sang, voice bubbling with malice. Hello there. And a very special hello to my beloved Harley, my former darling, my dear little toy. Harley gripped her bat, steady despite the tremor crawling up her spine. Joker's smile quivered at its ends. I heard you've been playing hero, Harley, wearing spandex and pretending someone else can keep you warm. His head tilted. Come here. Come back to your real puddin'. Harley rolled her eyes. Sorry, Mr. J. But you're too ugly now. And I found a sexier, cooler man. Way better in every category. She tapped her bat against her shoulder. Time for you to finally get over me. Joker went still. Then he giggled. Then he roared. Oh? Is that so? His voice scraped like metal. Well, no hard feelings. His grin sharpened into something predatory. I'll just kill your boyfriend, and wear his head as a necklace. Maybe then you'll remember who owns you, you bitch. He lunged a blur of white skin and twisted muscle straight at the entire team. The ground shook as the Joker lunged forward, a blur of pale muscle and wrongness. Supergirl met him head-on, fist cocked back, heat vision burning behind her irises. Her punch connected squarely with his jaw, the kind of blow that should have shattered mountains. It only made his head tilt. Joker grinned. Then his hand snapped up and clamped onto her throat like a steel vice. Ah, cupcake, that tickled. Before she could react, he swung her like a sledgehammer, smashing her through a bus, a streetlight, and the brick facade of a corner store. She crashed through the far wall and skidded another 30 meters before stopping, dazed and bleeding through her lip. Green Arrow loosed 3 explosive arrows in rapid succession, each one slamming into Joker's ribs. They detonated in a blinding burst, but Joker walked through the smoke unfazed, brushing ash off his shoulder as though it were lint. Black Canary stepped forward, inhaling sharply. She unleashed a full-power canary cry, a sonic lance that split asphalt and sent cars tumbling. Joker staggered, for a heartbeat. Then he laughed through the scream, pushing against the wave with a manic bounce in his step. His skin rippled, his muscles bulged, and he advanced, each step cracking the concrete under him. That your singing voice, Blondie? Little flat on the high notes. Raven descended next, her cloak trailing shadows as she chanted, her soul self rising like a monstrous raven behind her. Dark tendrils lashed forward, wrapping around Joker's arms and torso, dragging at the very essence of him. The ground warped from the raw demonic pressure. For a moment he slowed. Then the tendrils snapped like dry twigs. Joker tore through the magic, his laughter echoing with a distorted, otherworldly undertone. Oh come on, Bird Girl, I've had nightmares scarier than that. Raven's eyes widened an instant before he backhanded her. The hit wasn't a strike, it was a cannon blast. She was sent flying into a police cruiser so hard the roof folded in like paper. Harley stepped in, knuckles cracking. All right, Mr. J. I think you need a timeout. She vanished in a ripple of cursed energy. Black flash. Boom. The strike hit Joker's spine, making the world itself distort for a split second. But Joker only rolled his shoulders and cracked his neck. Oh Harley. Harley, Harley, Harley. That tickles too. But it just ain't enough. She blinked behind him and struck again another black flash, but Joker caught her by the wrist mid-swing. His grip tightened, bones creaking. I really did miss your touch, he whispered, lifting her effortlessly off the ground with one arm. Harley kicked and fought, but his other hand wrapped around her waist as if she weighed nothing. Don't squirm, sweetheart. You used to love it when I held you up like this. He raised her higher, fingers tightening, smile widening to an unnatural, grotesque slit. As his long tongue rolled out to lick her face. Disgusting. Supergirl blasted in again with a roar, driving her shoulder into Joker's ribs. The impact sent all 3 sliding across the pavement, but Joker didn't release her, he just dug his heels into the ground and stopped dead. Then he slammed his forehead into Supergirl's face. She reeled back, stumbling, blood spraying. Harley choked, kicking desperately, black energy flickering around her fingers, but she couldn't land a strike like this. Behind them, Green Arrow fired another explosive arrow. It bounced off Joker's back like a thrown pebble. Joker snorted. Annoying. He started to squeeze. And that's when a series of small, sharp bangs erupted around his head and chest, little explosions, not meant to kill, just to interrupt. Smoke pellets. Flash pellets. Concussive pellets. Joker's head snapped to the side as the cloud of burning white vapor swallowed the street. Harley fell. Batman landed between them, cape sweeping out, stance low. His breathing was heavy, but his eyes were locked on the Joker with a cold familiarity. Let her go. The smoke cleared. Joker was standing exactly where he had been, utterly unharmed, chuckling as he dusted soot off his shoulders. Batsy. Batsy, Batsy, Batsy. I missed you. His grin broadened into something feral. You showed up just in time. I was starting to think these new kids didn't know how to play. He cracked his knuckles. Let's pick up where we left off. Batman had fought gods, monsters, and nightmares wearing human faces, but nothing he'd ever faced moved quite like this thing calling itself the Joker. He wasn't injured, not really. Joker tossed him around, but never focused on him long enough to break anything vital. No, what unsettled Batman wasn't the beating. It was the complete lack of effect he had in return. Explosive gel. Electric charge gauntlets. Nerve-dulling pellets. Nothing even slowed Joker down. What happened to him? Bane's venom? Some new drug? A magical augmentation? None of the possibilities fit the raw, impossible strength Joker displayed. And when Supergirl arrived, the last remaining hope was that she could restrain him long enough for analysis. But even that hope evaporated. Supergirl's punches were so powerful they cracked the road in spiderweb patterns. Each blow detonated like a cannon. Joker rocked back from the force, but only the way a giant might sway when nudged by a child. He laughed with every hit. A high-pitched, quivering sound that made the back of Batman's neck tighten. Her heat vision carved black welts into his pale skin, for half a second. Then the burns vanished, healed as though they'd never been. "Aw, you're all so much fun to play with," Joker shouted, spreading his arms theatrically. "Actually, not. I'm bored. Bored. So out of my way and bring me Jason. I want my favorite TOY." His fist came down like a meteor, smashing into Supergirl's ribs and sending her hurtling across the street. She tore through a bus, folding it in half, then crashed into a parked truck. Raven's magic surged, black tendrils coiling around Joker, binding him in shadow. Joker didn't even look at her. His eyes lit up with crimson beams. Heat vision, sick and sharp, and he fired directly at her. Raven raised her soul self in defense, but the force of the blast ripped her off her feet, hurling her across the plaza. Black Canary slid beneath Joker's massive frame, planting her feet and unleashing a scream that vibrated the air into rippling waves. Joker winced, not in pain, but in irritation. "Oh, I hate that note," he snarled. Two arrows whistled through the air, fired with perfect timing. They plunged straight into Joker's eyes. Pink explosions burst inside his skull. Joker staggered back, shrieking, blood pouring down his face. "Ag! Pain! Pain! So much pain!" Then he stopped. His voice dropped to a perfectly calm whisper. "Not really." He lowered his hands, both eyes were intact. Not a drop of damage left. He grinned at Green Arrow, wide and murderous. "You're a cheeky little bastard, you know that?" He tore a slab of broken concrete from the ground and hurled it like a missile. Green Arrow barely rolled aside before the impact obliterated the street. Before Joker could advance, a new wind ripped through the battlefield, a streak of red lightning, a gust of displaced air, a shimmer of emerald light. Superman landed with a thunderous crack. Hal Jordan floated beside him, aura blazing. Martian Manhunter phased through a wall, calm and unreadable. Flash skidded to a stop, wind whipping around him. Zatanna stepped forward, gloves shimmering with arcane symbols. Reinforcements had arrived. Joker turned slowly, his grin stretching impossibly wide. "Ah, look at this. The cavalry. The A-listers. The main cast." He pointed at Superman, eyes gleefully wide. "Hello, Man of Steel. We've never had a real dance, have we? And I've always wanted to see what makes you giggle, big boy." His feet tensed like springs. He leaned forward. Too excited. Too eager. "Let's dance," he hissed, voice dripping madness. "Show me if you're as entertaining as Batsy." Jason stepped out of the phone booth portal expecting Gotham. Instead, he walked into a place that looked nothing like it. A dry wind blew sand across the cracked pavement. The buildings were sun-bleached, the air thick with heat, and every sign around him was written in a language he barely recognized. What? Where the hell did she send me? Jason muttered, eyes scanning the unfamiliar streets. He ducked back inside the booth and tried the teleportation code again. The screen flashed red. Error. Connection blocked. Great. Before he could try another override, a blue shimmer filled the booth behind him. Someone was teleporting in. Jason stepped aside. The light collapsed, revealing Wonder Woman. "Diana? Jason? What are you doing here?" they asked at the same time. Diana stepped out, eyes narrowing at their surroundings. "This isn't right. My tracker was directing me to Metropolis. So why are we in Bialia?" She stopped. Jason raised an eyebrow. The Middle Eastern country run by that psycho dictator? Perfect. "Yes, exactly that," Diana said, frowning. "But this shouldn't be possible. The teleporter must have malfunctioned." Jason shook his head. "No. Someone's messing with us. Whoever's scrambling Gotham's comms. I'm betting they're also hijacking our portals. This isn't a coincidence. Someone wants us here." Diana's expression hardened. "Most likely. Let me try overriding it." She entered several high-level admin codes, but every attempt ended in another rejection. Nothing. It's being jammed from the outside. Engines roared before Jason could respond. A convoy of military trucks skidded to a stop around them. Soldiers jumped out, rifles aimed. "Dogs of America," one of them shouted. "Raise your hands. Now. You are trespassing in the territory of Greater Bialia. This is a violation of international law." Diana stepped forward, voice calm even as she muttered, "Great. This was probably planned too. Under international law, we can't escalate here." She glanced toward Jason. "Should we fall back?" Jason exhaled slowly. "No. Screw that. I'm done playing political games." His hand rose. Every rifle in the soldier's hands split cleanly in half, metal slicing as if cut by an invisible blade. "Leave," Jason said, voice cold. "Or the next thing I slice is your heads." The soldiers froze, terror spreading like wildfire. "Retreat," someone shouted. The entire unit scattered. Jason watched them run, then a new voice drifted down from above. "My, oh my. Someone's feeling vicious today. Aren't there laws you're supposed to care about?" Who cares?" A floating boy descended from the rooftop, wearing a black suit, ridiculous hair, and holding a lazy black cat in one hand. "Which boy, Clarion?" Diana hissed. "Lord of Chaos Clarion," the boy shrieked, stamping his foot. "Not which boy." "Relax, Clarion," a woman purred as she stepped beside him. "Cheetah. When we're done skinning them alive, they won't be calling you anything." A third figure dropped from the sky, landing with a heavy thud. The golden lightning emblem on his shoulder said everything before he spoke. Black Adam. And finally, walking behind him, flames curling around a skull-shaped head, came the radioactive brute known as Atomic Skull. Jason stared at the four of them, unimpressed. Colorful lineup, he said. But seriously? You all think you stand a chance here? No. All I see. His fingers tightened. Is a bunch of idiots who just put their necks on the guillotine.
And that concludes this episode. If you enjoyed it, I'd seriously love it if you guys could leave a like on the video, as it genuinely helps out so much, and it keeps me going, plus it takes only 1 second. That said, have a wonderful day. See you in the next one.